Nice. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Oh, crap. Spoke too soon. Thought I had it. Well, anyways, welcome back to the Shadow and Sun Show. Folks, welcome to my dog barking. Welcome to another Saturday night sci-fi shadow chat. He can go and be a dog downstairs. Hope you guys are doing great. I'm feeling better. I had a couple of minor issues this week, but feeling better. Looking forward to a nice long chat about, as you can see, Stargods, Eldergods, what's up, Mercurius, and Supreme Beings. You know, the new Dune movie's out, and I'm not going to watch it. I read the books, got as far as I could with them, and that was a long time ago. But I know a lot of people are out there thinking about that sort of thing, and you know, we've talked about some of these ideas before, the elder gods, but it occurs to me that, you know, in fantasy games, a lot of these things are no big deal. They're sort of second nature, but in a sci-fi or quasi sci-fi game, there's always somebody at the top. You know, whether it's the Emperor from Star Wars, the Q from the Q continuum, and in Star Trek, the God Emperor of Dune, Cthulhu himself, Superman, Galactus. There's all kinds of sci-fi equivalents of, you know, the top dog. Now, part of the discussion tonight will hopefully be about allowing players to come close to being the top dog, because who doesn't want to have a really powerful character in fantasy? You know, I've heard thousands of times where players have, you know, become gods as characters, you know, gone through the ranks, done all the mighty quests, been blessed by their god, and then brought up into, you know, the ranks of gods or demigods or some such thing. But in science fiction, it's except, you know, in the superhero genre, it's more or less verboten. It's terrifying. It's too much of, you know, too difficult. There's no challenge, and to all that I say bullshit. I can do it. I bet Justin can do it. I bet you guys could do it with a little bit of thought put into it. Maybe give it a try. What's happening, Justin? How you doing, buddy?
Nothing much, bro. You? I missed what you said at the beginning there, so I don't know what I'm supposed to be able to do.
I was just talking about, you know, how in a lot of sci-fi, there's a top dog, whether it be the Emperor, the Q Continuum, Galactus, the Emperor, Superman. Hey, Raven, what's happening? Grandma, what's happening? The link's in there if you guys want to join this discussion. You know, there's always some big top dog, and you know, in a good story, the hero tries to, at least, you know, he's either in conflict with the top dog or tries to serve the top dog or be the top dog. And why the heck not? You know, if you're like me, tired of running the rat catchers and the nobodies on the edge of space, you know, maybe, you know, going along the route of Dune, you know, going through some sort of process to be the right. I know Mercurius, but it was an example. You know, becoming that all powerful or, you know, nigh omnipotent, you know, being. Why not? I mean, if we're gonna have fantasies and live them out at the table, why not, you know, give it a try every once in a while? You know, try to be the big dog. You know, why not? Are we afraid? Do we think we can't, as players, handle it? Well, I mean, if we can do it in D&D, why not science fiction?
I think the problem is the same problem you have in D&D, is that it becomes boring really quickly.
I hear people say that, but I ran and I'm still running a game where that's the last thing it ever was boring. The
Well,
key is always throwing shit, whether it be monsters, adversaries, always constantly keeping them on their toes. As soon as you let them, rest on their laurels, then you become, then it becomes commonplace and boring and stagnant. If they've always got something bigger and nastier out there waiting to hunt them down or sneak up on them, trust
mm,
me, their power levels are insignificant because you can always add a zero to the hit points or whatever of your monsters and just keep bumping up the challenge level, so to speak.
mm,
And,
yeah,
and trust me, if you keep them, if you give them very little time to rest, or even if you do and then you throw something at them, just make it something that you expect, because like how many times have you been in a game where the players just totally just kick the crap out of the DM's new big bad monster he's been working all week on, and then the players pull something out of their ass and just make it look like easy work.
mm, that does happen.
You
Um,
know why it happens? Because it's always, it's not supposed to be, but it's the group of players against the one guy trying to be the GM, and he can only
mm,
think, in so many different directions. And the players are usually thinking in completely different directions. You never
mm,
know what to expect from your players, which, if you've got good
yeah,
players, just pulling some weird thing out of them, you should be able to create the biggest, nastiest thing. And they should be able to come up with something new, even if it is just a new way to run away.
yeah. I think we're coming from different ethoses here. I'm not the huge fan of the it's another giant creature of the week.
Oh no, it doesn't have to be a giant
Yeah,
creature. It could be a giant
well,
group of,
that's
a
a
cult. Uh,
the term is used for any kind of
mhm.
just
What's
feature
up,
of the
Hunger?
week, right? Ungar, bro, where are you? Hop in here.
Yeah, I sent him the link.
Hmm.
I mean, it doesn't have to be a one thing. It doesn't have to be. It doesn't even have to be a combat oriented situation. You can always come at them
Yeah,
financially at the home front. Thing.
yeah,
Something. It could be a plague that's affecting their planet or their countryside. It could be all
yeah.
kinds of
But
things that
like
that they
all
have to
all,
deal with.
all those qualify under the creature of the week kind of scenario. Um,
Well,
because
what
that's
else is there? Other than
well,
something coming at them or around them, bothering them or their holdings or their friends or you know another country on this other side of the world, needs their help.
well that's when it goes from being like a creature of the week to like a in depth, prolonged like thing that you're struggling against. That's when it goes from knocking over a domino to building a complex story, right?
Mm-hmm.
It takes a lot more work to build that, especially if you're doing it spontaneously. But it's like an exercise. You have to learn how to do it.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's. I just woke up, man. So like,
You know what? I wanted to take a nap after my long ass busy day of doing crap, but the show must
yeah,
go on. So, and
yeah,
Hungar, you can always just, kill the camera and just come in and say hi. Raven, you got the link too. If
yeah,
not, it's at the
Raven.
top of the chat. I know she's out driving and doing stuff, so if she wants to come in later or whatever.
Yeah. Did you get yourself locked in the padded room building again, Hungar? The hospital.
Mm. No, he's probably just lounging around,
Mm.
being Hungar.
Yeah, but yeah, yeah. That's it's one of the reasons why I was never really into mainstream comic books, just because they're just, you know, creatures of the week. Even
It depends on. I think.
there
Uh,
are some good ones like
right.
Watchmen and Sandman's supposed to be that way, where there's more going on than just the creature. It's like, why is Bill Murray's character in Ghostbusters the best character? Because he's got more going on with him than just the one note of being a badass in his profession, right? Like,
He's actually not.
no,
He's
well,
a
none of
shrug.
them really are, but
Mhm.
they're like perceived to be experts at like their thing, right?
What was
Um,
Winston an expert at? I never understood.
Winston was the actual paranormal activities expert.
Really,
Yeah, he was the one that knew everything about the ghosts and shit like that. Uh,
I don't remember any of that.
Egon
The science guy.
was the actual the technology guy.
Mhm.
Winston's role was that in the first movie, but in the cartoon it got shifted over to Egon as well. He just became comic
I
relief.
thought Ray was with the occult bookstore and everything.
Now, Ray was the not the ghosts, spiritual creatures guy. He was the like psychic phenomenons and like
Really,
like
because he had like
yeah,
the bookstore. I thought he was more of the maybe the lore guy.
yeah.
The guy with the historical
Like
knowledge and things
he
like
would
that.
know everything about like the Masons or whatever.
Mhm.
He was like if I'm remembering this correctly, it could be inverted.
Yeah, because I don't remember,
Yeah,
not to be, a certain thing or whatever, but I really
yeah.
don't remember what Winston's specialty was,
Well,
other
because it
than
was never like if you had to be paying very close attention to him, bouncing ideas back with the other guys.
Mhm.
Otherwise, he's just played off his comic relief, right? But that's why he was at the university. He worked there. He was in that department because they let everybody in that department go.
Because the only thing I do remember that was very very Christian, oriented.
Mm.
Uh, I dig Jesus's style, sort of thing.
Hmm.
Um,
Uh, yeah,
Good
I
for
can
you, huh?
get that. I can get that. Yeah, he's that you're at home.
Cheers, buddy. So,
Um, but no, but there was more going on with that, and that's what like
I'll give another
humanized
watch.
the
It's been a
character.
few. It's been a few.
Yeah, that's what really pissed me off is that they didn't make one every 3 or 5 years because that was the actual character that drove that story, right? Without that interplay with Sigourney Weaver's character, that relationship, that story does not exist. It's too much of a one note without that.
I wish they would have kept making those.
Yeah,
To be honest, when you think about it, it was, in my opinion at least, one of the best things to come and spin off from Saturday Night Live. All,
Ghostbusters. Oh yeah, because all the actors were on that.
yeah, if
Well,
you think of
most of
all the
them
movies,
were.
because like just about every SNL guy got a movie if he was worth
Mhm.
it, worth the price of
Yeah,
admission. He or she got a movie, and very rarely was it actually a she that got a movie, which I guess that was a
there were a few, but like that's the only one that wasn't an actual SNL skit.
right,
Yeah, and
or
that's the
based on
key.
one,
Yeah,
and
and
it
and,
was.
and I think that's the key. The key that it was like it, it wasn't from the mindset of that group. That group, like Saturday Night Live, I don't care. Even in its golden day, it was hot garbage. Um,
I don't know. And just let's
there
thank
were
God
there were
that
funny
Jimmy
moments,
Smith
but
never got invited in.
there were funny moments, but everything has funny moments, right? Uh, that is sheerly a product of nepotism, and that's the only
Of
reason why
what?
it's still on. Nepotism.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, the first, I want to say 3+ years roughly, for me and my old man, that was a big deal. It was,
Yeah, but
I
that's
was
because there was nothing else
well, I
on.
shouldn't have even been awake at the time. I was a
Yeah.
kid, I was really young. I don't
And
remember
you were
exactly how.
driven by nostalgia.
Well, no, I mean, for me and my old man, it was a way we could bond. Watch something that I wasn't supposed to be watching. Sort of my initiation into adult humor. My dad would just be looking at me like, "You understand this?" I'm like, "Yeah," and he was, uh, it was,
Mhm.
there was some good times. Some good stuff came out of it. Some awful stuff came out of it later on, admittedly, but the very first 2-3 years, for me at least, I enjoyed every minute of watching it. It's something I looked forward to. Friday after school, I'm like, oh, it's almost time for Saturday Night Live, kind of thing. Some great musical guests. But let's get back to the actual topic for a change. Um,
Well, technically, there was an Elder God in Ghostbusters,
yes,
both
there was. There
times.
was. Wasn't there two technically?
Yeah, both times.
No,
Right.
I thought in the first one there were the two. Gozer and
I
um,
thought the other one, the
the
the goes
gatekeeper and keymaster.
yeah, Gatekeeper and Keymaster were like creatures created by the Elder God. They were like subspecies.
I suppose, or
Yeah,
high priestess or something like that.
yeah.
I could see that maybe.
But who knows? Like you, it's been a few years.
Hmm.
But I was a hardcore Ghostbusters guy.
Oh, me too.
So,
I love the cartoon, the good one.
the real Ghostbusters.
That
I
was
even
where I first
I even
encountered
liked
Sam Hain.
yeah, I even liked the new Ghostbusters. I think if they had stuck with the new Ghostbuster lore for the remake instead
You
of
mean the
the
movies?
yeah,
I haven't seen them yet.
uh, the real Ghostbusters was the one from the '90s with the guy in the wheelchair and the the chick, the the spunky little goth chick. Like
Not ringing a bell.
they had like a teenage crew. They're all like graduate students from the university.
Hmm.
They're taking Egon's class when the new Ghost wave came out, and he turned them into the Ghostbusters because they're all in their 60s now, so they couldn't really do it. But yeah, it was short lived. I think it was 1, 2 seasons, and
Never saw it.
you should look it up. It's a fun little like take on the concept, and if they'd done that instead of the "we hate the audience" thing in 2016, right? Like I don't know. You saw the 2016 movie or the
No.
trailers to it at least.
Nope.
Well, you had to. It was everywhere.
I honestly didn't see it.
Well,
Mind you,
no, the trailers are like
no,
the.
I didn't see the trailers.
Okay.
I heard about them, but I don't remember ever seeing them. It's weird what I get in the way of commercials on YouTube because I don't watch TV. I watch either Rumble
Yeah.
or YouTube, and the commercials I get are usually for products as opposed to movies. Occasionally, I'll get one,
Mhm.
but it's usually, maybe it's because of the things that I do on the internet. They've determined that I'm not gonna, watch their movies, so don't bother wasting time. Um,
Mhm.
I guess something like that. But I heard a lot of things about it, and
Mhm.
uh, just
Well, it was the first real outrage bait thing in the media, and they lent into that. Or it's like, no, like you're all racist, sexist, bigots. It's
Right.
like,
That
no, we're calling out your racism and sexism. For most part, there's always like the one bad actor out there, but the bigotry was coming from the people making the movie.
Oh yeah,
And
it usually is.
blatantly.
I'm not, nor have I ever fallen for any of that. I know what I
Yeah.
am, and a racist is not one of them.
Well, you probably should be.
There have been times I've been pushed, but
Yeah.
I can literally, because I can size somebody up by looking at them and get a really
Yeah.
good idea of, what they're all about, real quick, like the Sherlock Holmesian deductive reasoning. I can usually sort of put myself in their shoes, or at least get an idea where they're coming from, and if it's not someplace I want to associate with, then I just keep on trucking.
Mm-hmm.
But curious, what did you mean by angels? You just typed in angels and just left it hanging there. If you mean by part of the topic, I can see that. If you want to go a
Okay.
real sort of Christian route, like run a game, like after the rapture, kind of like with Family Guy did that one episode. That could be fun if your group was into it, but I find that it would be kind of tricky trying to pull that off. Doing the whole end times kind of thing. Kind of be careful what you wish for. Sort of bad karma. I wouldn't want to tempt the big guys like, oh, you think it'll be a piece of cake, huh? You think it'd just be rolling dice, huh? Bam,
The
right?
rapture is not actual Christian or
I,
Judaic
I, I know.
theology,
I'm very aware of that. But
but
it'd be
you ever
based on
watch
movies and TV shows.
you ever watch the Far Enough into Supernatural to when they went to one of the other realities?
Yeah, I watched the whole all the way to the very, very disappointing end.
I liked the end. I thought it was
Um,
like a bittersweet conclusion to it.
yeah, I mean,
A lot better
parts
than
of it
like
were
The
okay.
Sopranos or
Dean's, getting nailing himself to a tree on accident was
mm,
just weak.
a spike in a barn. But that's how I always saw Dean going out to the bitter end doing the job.
Right, but it could have been a little bit more, kind of badass. You know what I mean? Just something so, like, like literally, like stubbing your toe and not
He
realize,
already conquered God. Like, how could you do anything more badass than that?
at least I don't know. I would have just
Like
I would have given him a little
Dean
bit
gave a
more.
moral lesson to the Almighty. And that was
Dean was a great
Dean we're
character.
talking about.
I know Dean was a great character, absolutely. Although I think the way they portrayed God was bullshit.
Perfect. Perfect. No, perfect. Old Testament perfect.
But he wouldn't go out like that. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
That's just
It was
it's
a
just kind of
moral. It was a moral thing, not
to
a.
me it was just blasphemy and ridiculous. Like the all powerful omnipotent being wouldn't see that shit coming a mile away, and prevented it.
That was the point of the series. He was creating worlds that would defy his ability to see what was coming. That was him being. He was bored because he always knew what was coming next.
Right. I
So
talk about that quite a lot.
he was creating new worlds to see if he would find one that would eventually do what he wasn't seeing coming. You didn't pick up on that.
Oh no, I did, but I still think that it would be an exercise in futility.
Well, he had been doing it since the beginning of time.
Yeah.
That's what was making him such an asshole, was because he thought it was an exercise of futility, but was so fucking bored he kept trying to do it. Which was kind of funny. And it would make no sense that we were watching one of the worlds that he didn't see, because, the drama.
And yes, part of the topic is, would you, in your, imagine you're running, a Traveler, Star Frontiers, Star Trek kind of universe where there's all kinds of crap out there. Are you going to have,
energy
things?
clouds? Energy
Yeah.
clouds.
Remember in the very first, the original series of Star Trek, that character who was always looking in the mirror, but he was super powerful, even though he was just like a child version of like those godlike beings. Would you have something like that in your game? Would they, run into super powerful beings, that, whether there's a spark of divinity or not, we don't have to go into that. But if they're just, is there a super powerful thing, or is humanity just a dead end species? Or are there other species out there that could transcend, us? Even, I mean, we already know that if we keep at what we're going at, we're gonna figure out how to do a lot of crazy stuff that will transcend what we're normally used to. Our great grandkids, they're already talking about them living, hundreds of years with improvements in medical technology. Well, what if you extrapolate, 10,000 years into the future, or you look at it from another point of view, like a different race that's much older than us, that goes beyond, the Vorlons and the Shadows from Babylon 5. We never got to see what they could do. We know that they were just terrifying, just by reputation alone. We never saw, other than the Shadows being able to be invisible. Ooh, I'm sure that wasn't the extent of their power. You know what I mean? They could do all kinds of crap.
Well, I don't think the Shadows were actually invisible. They just done what the Vorlons done, manipulated enough species so they couldn't be seen.
Maybe, but assume that they, could. I mean, we're on the verge of invisibility technology on our own, and look where we are. We're nobody. We keep at it. Eventually, we'll have, predator suits or whatever you want to call them, or better.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just one little tiny aspect, that messes with your eyes. We already have machines that can smell. You add all those things up together, you could come up with something pretty terrifyingly powerful, at least compared to us. And then you take those robots that we're already making. I mean, if you or I were one-on-one with some of those combat robots that are out there, we'd be screwed.
Well, you'd be screwed. For like the 20 minutes it could knock you out before you got back up again. Me, I'd whoop its ass. But yeah, like you said, they have machines that can smell, and they have machines that smell. When South Park and what was the one that came out, the video game?
Was it the superhero one?
I don't remember.
Or the Stick of Truth?
Maybe the Stick of Truth, the one with the fart joke in it.
Could you narrow it down a little further? I mean,
there was one that when it released, it came with a thing that you could put on, and every time you did one combo, it made you smell a fart.
I think that was the superhero game, to be honest.
Maybe. It doesn't matter. It was still funny.
Yeah, I never saw Crusade Doodle. I think I saw like the first episode. It's on my my eBay watch list of things, but I just haven't picked it up because I would like to know, find out the end of that story. It looked like it could have been fun, but like with so many things, it got canceled way before it should have, in my opinion.
Crusade, okay. The Babylon 5 Crusade.
Yeah, where they were
Yeah,
trying
yeah.
to.
I was trying to think of another show that might have been called that, but yeah, it could have been. But it was like that was like it wasn't a creature of the week. That thing happened during the movie, and it was the lingering effects of it that they were trying to find the cure for in that show. And if the studio hadn't deliberately fucked with that show so much, it would have gotten 4 or 5 years. The worst thing they ever did was allow TNT to buy that.
You think?
That's what killed the show.
Mm-hmm.
What was the original network called? It was like it was one of the news.
CW?
No, it was one of the newspaper magnates that tried his hand at television.
20th Century?
No, that much later than that.
Because I always thought it was Fox, but I never really paid much attention to stuff like that until recently. TNT.
No, TNT was the company that the channel that bought it when
Right.
the one that it was on folded. It was on like Ted Turner Television or something like that. And it did the first 4 years on there, and then that channel was going under, so they sold to TNT, and TNT made the. It was going to get canceled outright, but TNT said, "Come do a couple of the TV movies," and that's where we got all those TV movies.
Right, River of Souls, Soul Hunter.
One of those was an episode in season 1. The other was the movie.
Right.
But we got
was one of them.
No, beginning was the pilot.
Oh, it was.
That's why the makeup's all different. But then there was
and why Londo's hair was awful.
Oh well, it was a little different, but like in the beginning, the Mambari had like all bumpy faces and shit.
I've actually got an autographed copy by J. Michael of the pilot.
You're thinking of not in the beginning, but the Vorlon War,
right?
Or maybe it was in the beginning. Now I'm thinking of the Gathering.
I'm not sure. I have. I just picked up the box set of all the movies just to make sure I had everything.
It's the only one I don't have.
And
the movies.
There was some good stuff there, but for me it was always like it was kind of hard to find out exactly where they fit in. You know what I mean?
There is a chronological order guide on Wikipedia, I think. If not, you can just type in chronology of Babylon
the movies.
5.
Sure.
Well, just Babylon 5, and I'll tell you them all.
Speaking of Westerns, Grandma, got this in the mail today from the Red Room, and I'm only like 10 pages in, and I'm like, well, you'll have to wait. See my review later next week.
Good. I don't know, but yeah, there's a lot in B5 with the elder races and all that are pretty close.
Right,
to that.
and you know it's weird because like in TV, I noticed that in TV, books, and movies, it's all okay. You know what I mean?
Well, because it's a visual medium and it allows you to do whiz bag speckle.
Right. No, it wasn't that. That's not what was bothering me so much. Was that people seem to think that they're not as good as the people who wrote these books, these movies, etc. And I'm like,
it's not about the writing. It's when you're doing actual like theater of the mind, or even crappy miniature moving games, um, it's a lot harder to get into that actual headspace because
You think so?
there aren't as many lens flares in your mind. Michael Bay isn't there with his camera tricks.
I always found it as sort of like an inferiority complex kind of thing, between them saying, "Oh, I can't handle it as a GM." Okay, well, hand the reins over to someone who can. I guarantee you, there's someone who wants to tell a story like that, or
Well,
hint of a story like that in a game.
yeah. As the players, like, okay, if you're talking the Star Trek crew, who are super powerful compared to us, but they're just people dealing with what the
Mhm.
fuck is that? Um, that's one scenario, but if you're also the almighty creature, which I think you were hinting at before, it becomes too much of a like a level playing field. That if your party isn't just knocking them over like cheap dominoes, they become very like, but I'm all powerful. I should have been able to just the game was over, even though that would have made
Well,
a very
I,
boring
I,
game.
I, I
And
unless you're literally
the
playing
sec
like, go
the
ahead.
second you give in to them doing that, the game ends because there's only so many times you can hit red button and be successful until
Mhm.
hitting red button becomes like a thing you only want to do while taking a dump. Like playing those stupid cell phone games. They're like Bubble Match or whatever. Like you can play that once and then it becomes boring. It makes no sense to like.
Well, I wouldn't, unless, like I said, you were playing like the Immortals rules of BX, where they start out as a first level god. I would never use the word god, or I would not use it at
Yeah.
the beginning, saying you're not a god. This is what you are. You can do this and you can do that. It's excuse me, etc. The average person can't do any of those things, but there are things out there, people out there that for whatever reasons have different powers and abilities. It seems so strange that when we're in a pure fantasy or RPGs, God, I got the hiccups really bad, guys. When
Mm-hmm.
when we're doing fantasy RPGs, that stuff is just
Hand waved.
not a problem. It's not a problem, you know. But when you try to go into any other genre, it's like I don't know what to do.
Mm-hmm. I think because um, magic is expected in fantasy where it's not expected in non-fantasy. So like even in like urban fantasy, your human characters are expected to be what you understand about real life. Like you're applying your own
Mhm.
uh, lived experience um, to those worlds, right? You didn't live in Middle Earth. You did live in California,
Mhm.
right? So if you're setting a game in scratch serial number off Middle Earth, you're expecting to not know what the power dynamics are. Where if you're living in scratch the serial number off California, you're expecting to know the vibe and you know abilities of a common person. And when you turn that on its head without that being clear from the beginning, even if it's like serial numbers shaved off California 400 years in the future, people still know what people are,
Mhm.
so
Yeah, it's just weird that things like cybernetics and like nanotechnology we were talking about the other day, and other things like that that don't really exist in the real world like they do in sci-fi worlds,
Not
we
yet.
can to me that's no different than casting a fireball or
Yeah.
psionics or any of
Yeah.
that stuff.
But when you have that as like so in fantasy, the explanation for fireball is magic. In sci-fi, the explanation from a fireball is nanobot mutations.
or a piece of gadgetry or what have
Yeah,
you,
well, this nanobots is a piece of
or
gadgetry.
psionics.
Yeah, well, still, that's one of the things why psionics is, one of those.
Very unpopular.
Because it sits in this woohoo territory, like, gypsies are a scam, and psionics is very close to gypsy crap.
Mhm.
You know,
You'd be amazed some of the mental talents that people have today, if they were to go back in time, would be
yeah,
considered, you know, black magic and things like that. People when you can
just
tell somebody's lying,
yeah.
it's a skill or an ability if you want it.
Well,
But if you could do that back in the day, oh, you had the evil eye or something.
yeah,
You'd be amazed how many abilities we have that
that
people didn't
are
have a long time ago, and
yeah.
in the future, who knows what we might, what.
Well, we had them back then. It's just that they weren't understood. So it's not like they're new abilities.
Most of them.
Um, yeah, well, I'd say all of them, but
I can think of a few that were definitely. Uh,
well, like the ability to learn something is there, but if you're killing everybody that learns it,
yeah.
because they're mo witches. I don't know what's going on in chat.
I was in the Shire during the gold rush. But what about for the bad guys? In a sci-fi game, we can kind of
It's it's a lot easier to do it for the bad guys, because they come in for like uh you do your one shot like every third episode's an energy cloud and TNG, right? uh
Mhm,
Old school Star Trek, maybe
mhm.
o- OTS or OST. um but no, TOS, yeah. Sorry, I'm trying to remember the acronym for the original series. It's based on it.
TOS.
Yeah. Uh, but you have your energy cloud or your Q or your Q or your Q.
Or yeah, there
just
was that
because I covered the first four series.
the crystalline entity.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
Heck, even that one guy in the
Or
I
the
forget his
wormhole, the fucking wormhole in uh, Deep Space Nine was like an Eldergod.
but it's okay in that sort of situation to have something ridiculously powerful, and yet the crew of the Enterprise or whatever, they're supposed to somehow outwit it.
Mm-hmm.
That's even more unbelievable than the fact that the super powerful creature exists. You know what I mean? Even though we expect our players to outwit us, when there's 6, 8, players over there, conspiring against the GM. But in sci-fi games, we're just one guy against 6 or 7 players. When you've got an all-powerful super being, but yet,
Well, this is like you get those guys over there at the 4D cycle circle.
Mhm.
Um, and this is the one key point I agree with them on is you shouldn't be against, right? Like the second you're in the mindset of like I'm against the players.
Oh no, I'm just saying it in a technical, you have to get into the mind of the baddie of the week. You have to
Mm,
think how they would think, and that is against the players. You, as
mhm.
an arbiter of the game, can't, when it comes to the actual die rolls and the chances and the numbers and the rulings, you have to be, impartial. But when you're putting yourself into the mind of the NPC, you know, you've got to be able to, open one door and close the other, or put on one hat and now I'm putting on the
Well,
GM hat.
that's where you get into to dice smudging territories and
Yeah,
ruining games
you should never do
because
that. I mean, you don't have to actually roll the dice in every
mm,
single situation. There are times where you
yeah,
can
but
make the judgment call. It's like he doesn't need to roll this because of this item and these gadgets and things like that that do those things.
yeah,
Why do I need to roll a die? No matter what I roll, it's going to be the answer is yes because
yeah,
of the
but
percent
that
chances.
that that should always be on the favor of the player having the ability to turn a doorknob. So why do they need to roll to turn a doorknob?
Right.
Um, Extrapolate to everything that makes sense. Um,
You say hi.
just because most people don't get that, that's what that means.
Right.
Um, but yeah, you wouldn't have the crystalline entity go to a fist fight with Jean-Luc Picard because he loses that fight 100% of the time.
Right.
Um, but Picard, right? Like Picard doesn't get to even lift his hand in that fight. He just gets absorbed by the crystalline entity.
Mm-hmm.
Um, no exceptions. So it has to be an outwit scenario. Jesus, what?
And that's when you just decide to have the crystalline entity encase Picard in a crystalline shell and just keep him prisoner for whatever reason.
Well, I think the crystalline entity absorbed everything and it was like eating them or whatever. Doesn't
In
matter.
lieu of that, I would
Yeah,
just take him prisoner, to
yeah,
learn more or whatever.
yeah. It's one of the best storylines in the Next Generation was the Locutus of Borg, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because the Borg come close to
Bitch
that
slapped
kind of
everybody.
come really close to that star god kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and they basically imprisoned him in the essence of being a Borg, right? And he had to be ripped out of that. Which was like cleverness on the character's part. That would be harder to role play if you didn't have really good role players. But that wouldn't be combat. That would be role play, right? And I hate to say it to you, Shadow, but the game we're in tomorrow night is mostly combat.
Mm-hmm.
It's I wouldn't mind seeing that get more to role play.
Yeah, it's hard
Like,
when uh, we're not getting everybody showing up at the same time and getting to know each other.
mhm,
It's one of the things that it takes some time.
yeah. Well, you should just accept that those characters are out of scene, right? It's like if the party's
Mm-hmm.
split.
Now, what I mean though is for prep beforehand, because I usually don't find out until that day,
Hmm.
who's going to be on board, and I usually prep certain things in advance, and you know, I
Yeah.
I'm trying to get to a point where it's all on you guys, what you guys decide to do, but it's hard
Hmm.
when people not being there makes it difficult to allow everybody to just go off, because then the next game there's people that are, hundreds if not thousands of miles away, and then I'm going to run two different parties, or even three, because one guy's not here, one guy's over here, and then the rest of the group's over here, which is kind of difficult.
I think it would have been better if you only had us do one character each, and that way, when we're off the ship, those characters that are supposed to be with the party could be out patrolling the area around whatever we're doing. Or
Yeah, I kind of thought
yeah,
things were going to work a little differently with that, but
yeah.
there's still time to kind of fix that. I think once a couple of people have gotten their you know
Bearings.
yeah
That I had to say it, Raven out there. I saw you in the chat earlier. It would have been better if you only had one character. Just because you're learning the game. Like,
yeah
yeah.
I thought it would be helpful for
Definitely.
her
It's been
to
the opposite. I think every time. Sorry, we're getting into the game chat. Everybody, off topic.
no worries. I
Raven
didn't kill
even
one of your
agrees.
characters like that. It's not a problem.
Well, you could just take one of her characters and put her into learning something from the crew members. Like learning a skill or a trade or something, so she's not playing with it. Because every time Raven is only playing with one character, she's worlds more confident with what she's doing.
Well, she's got to actually have a character sheet too. That's
Yeah.
Organized. Once you understand
Well,
the character sheet is kind of everything that you need, and without it, you're just floundering. You have that one. It's like your script, but in a
yeah,
different language.
yeah, but like I can hear her shuffling through the pages trying to see what one's what for each character.
Well, no, it's because she's written everything for all of her characters on like 7 different sheets of paper. Now it's not like 2; it's like 7. You only need one term. Yeah.
Well, maybe we can sit down sometime, Raven, and collate that together onto 1 or 2 pieces of paper.
Just gotta find them now. So, not 7. How many? 5? 4?
It's 12 per
I can
character.
put a character sheet on one of these.
Yeah, well,
From memory.
I think if you'd used a tighter game, it would have been a lot easier to do that. I found that.
Because game time is tomorrow. And as far as I know, everybody's going to be there. Although I'm surprised Omen's not in here right now. He's usually,
I think he's on the road.
Still?
He was on the road yesterday or the day before, so he might still be on the road.
Yeah, Thursday I think he was still on the road.
Yeah.
I think Squirrel was too.
Yeah.
I'm not sure though.
I'm glad I don't have to leave my apartment anymore. I don't know. So from what it sounds like, Raven, it's more about organizing what you've already written down. And it's one of the more confusing systems for this kind of thing. That's why it's more combat than roleplay.
I don't know that it's confusing. I mean, you got to remember it's one of the very first.
Yeah, well, that's why it's confusing. It's taking from.
I don't know. I was reading. Grandma, I was reading Metamorphosis Alpha. That's a hot mess.
Well, I'm not saying that there aren't attempts to make it worse, but yeah. There have been.
It was an attempt to make it worse.
There have been great strives into simplifying the structural mechanics to the point where it frees up mental cycles for actually getting into the pants of your character instead of being a die roller, right? which I don't know about you. I prefer to get into. That's when you start to develop the story collaboratively, which is the strength of role playing.
Yeah, it's just
It's where you get the funny moments that aren't someone saying cake every time their character is stressed out. If you haven't picked up that, I as a character start asking for cake when my character's stressed.
Yeah.
It's not an actual desire for cake. It's a comfort. I want to be in a safe place.
Hey, what's
where I
up,
can eat
Jackie? You
cake.
want the link?
Hey, Lava Lord. Where's your lava? And how are you lording
How
over
do you
it?
use super glue to get the sucker to stop bleeding? It will work. It will work.
It is a liquid band-aid.
Yeah, I love that stuff. Oh, I was so happy when I found some after, like, I kid you not, it's got to have been 10 years since I've seen it. And I found some and I'm like, I am buying a crap ton of this.
What, super glue?
No, liquid Band-Aid.
Yeah,
Freaking
all
love that
liquid
stuff.
band-aid is making the formula of super glue less toxic and more rubbery, so it's easier to get
Whatever
off.
it is, I'm a big fan.
Yeah, it is definitely an evolution in the formula, but it is also specifying it to a specific task. People are stupid though, and put them on put it on large cuts. That is not good.
Yeah, well,
It's meant for like a paper cut. If you got a scrape, it's too big for a liquid band-aid.
you think so?
Yeah, most like a little burn or whatever, but you got a decent scrape. It's probably too big for a liquid band-aid. Probably use it on the edges. Hit the main area with some gauze and tape.
I'd be curious to see what the limits are of that stuff.
I wouldn't, because you're adding chemicals into your blood for no reason at that point. And chemicals that are designed to bond and seal. you, you don't want to like deliberately give yourself a blockage.
Oh, come on. Where's your sense of adventure?
Uh, Not that crazy.
That's fair, I guess.
It's probably safer to jam your foot into a railroad track and try and pull it out as a train's coming.
No, I don't think I want to do that.
Exactly.
I've seen too many railroad happenings, and they never ever end well.
Mm. Yeah, from those days in the 20s when you were jumping cars during the Great Depression.
Yep, riding the rails.
Cake.
What's up, Jack? You feeling any better? You want the link? You just gonna lurk?
Yeah, he hasn't said
He
anything since he said hello.
had a pretty
So.
exciting day today. He's a tough little kid. He had a bit of a cold the past couple of days, and still went on the JROTC Death March 10-mile hike in the blazing California desert.
That will beat the cold out of you, or make it much worse.
Yeah, I think he's going to be fine. I mean, he's a kid.
Oh.
He can bounce back from just about anything.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, Raven, I highly recommend you pick one of those characters and just lean into it for a few sessions.
This is where he was coming up the stairs. Yeah, he was coming up the stairs.
Boo.
Say hi, everybody.
Hello.
Hello. Whatever.
Did Scroll ever respond?
No, he did not.
Really? Have you heard from him?
Well, no. Actually, he said something. He wanted to know which program to use,
Oh,
like Audacity.
does he have Audacity?
I think so.
Then
Everybody has Audacity.
Yeah, but some of us are born with it, and some of us have to download it.
Oh, lame.
Lame.
It's a
Until
dad
Audacity
joke.
works perfectly fine. It's
Yeah.
what I use.
No, your dad's joke.
Yeah,
Oh, wait, what did I say? I didn't hear.
I said some people are born with it, and other people have to download it.
Oh,
I'm a dad. Of
oh.
course, I want to make dad jokes.
Yeah.
But back to super bad monsters.
Yeah.
I was thinking about because I did read them, and I got up to I think God Emperor of Dune.
Yeah.
It was, yeah, I'm pretty sure it was that because that was after Children of Dune, right?
Yeah. Children of Dune, then God Emperor. Yeah, it
And
goes that way.
and
You have
when
to
I
have your
read
kids
it,
before when it comes to God Emperor.
it was what else was out at the time? I'm trying to think. Star Trek Next Generation, I don't think was out yet. Wait a minute.
Mm.
It's about 85, so I don't know if I'd seen the queue yet.
No. 87 is when TNG premiered.
Right, and uh,
Like late 87.
we'd seen the Emperor, and I was using him as an example, even though he wasn't a supreme being, but he was freaking powerful, in comparison, to that whole universe. As far as we knew at the time, there wasn't, there weren't too many things that powerful. Do you think it's sort of the similarity between that and the dragon that people can
No, it wasn't God Emperor Dune. It was Dune Messiah, then Children of Dune.
Okay. I know I
God
have the first
Emperor.
5,
Okay, yeah.
but
The
the
chapter
whole
house books were written on the notes and released in 2008 to 2000 last year, 23. Then it goes God Emperor, and then Heretics of Dune. Then Chapter Houses of Dune, Hunters of Dune, and then Shadows of Dune, which are both 2000s books. So yeah, no. If you read up to God Emperor, that's 81.
okay. But I think that it's got to be some sort of, it's like the characters going after the dragon, or even a demon, which I think is on a completely different upper level than dragons, or at least they should be.
Um, yes and no. I think it's a different type of quest. It has different ethical and moral implications. You should be hitting different notes on the way to a demon than you are to a dragon.
Right. I mean, because you can encounter either on the way to either. you can encounter a demon on the way to fighting a dragon,
Yeah, but
and vice versa.
you can, but I don't think, like, if you're actually wanting to evoke the essence of what those creatures are, you should have like them be different storylines.
Absolutely.
One should be more like a spiritual story, and the other should be like a trials of romance or whatever, if you're doing it classically with the dragon,
Mhm.
or a treasure or whatever. You could have, for example, the unbound greed of a dragon's hoard be the beginning of your journey, right? So you go to the dragon because you want to get rich, but it leads you down a dark path morally. So then you end up having to redeem yourself through going after the demon.
Because I've often encountered dragons as the minions of demons, but not the other way around.
See, that's the problem when you dilute the essence of those philosophical elements to the port where they're like that, you're actually losing the flavor of the different stories.
You think so?
Yeah, I think so. It then just becomes like this hunk of plastic has X number of hit points instead of the essence, right?
I can see that.
It just becomes Soylent Green instead of Salisbury steak, and we don't want to be eating Soylent Green now, do we?
True. Well, I've had some pretty decent Salisbury steak.
Yeah,
Some really
Yeah.
bad. I've had some really bad too.
yeah. Well, that's all in preparation, though, right?
Right. But what you start with.
Well, the skill of the craftsman, because it's not the kind of thing you need to spend a lot of time doing prep work on, but you got to know what the fuck you're doing.
I don't know. Never mind.
What
So
you've made?
make a really bad Southern Green joke, but we've had enough cannibals in the news today or lately.
Yeah. And you've known cannibals first person from the time you were on Captain Cook's crew.
And going through the Donner Pass, and yeah, that was rough. I mean, they had pine trees right there. Kept telling them, just give me your axe. I'll get some food. It won't be great, but it's edible. Which blows me away. I don't know how the Indians didn't know about that. They had 2 Indians with them, and they didn't know shit apparently about survival.
Well, yeah, they were from India. What the fuck would they know?
God.
Oh.
But I really do think that there's a place for these stories in our sci-fi.
Yeah, it's just if you're not giving it the psychological and moral depth, it falls apart real quickly.
Because I've noticed now I'm not a huge anime fan or expert, but I've noticed that
Akira, perfect one.
Right. We could all sit down and enjoy it and understand it for the most part. But then when it comes to the table,
and the anime is only the first half of the story, right?
Mhm.
The guy that made it, who was the same guy that made the manga, didn't adapt the second half. Shit goes upside down in the second half.
Mhm.
You just imagine what happens at the end of Akira, and it's worse than that.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So I think my point is that you never know until you try. You know, there's uh, so many different ways those stories can go, and every game I've been in except for a couple in the last 2 years, it's really just uh, it always seems to be sort of chasing that dragon, that high of the nostalgia of what it was like, when we first started, as if we've learned nothing along the way and we just want to go back to being 14 again. And while that was a good time, there's there's some great people in our community
Mhm.
with great ideas, but it always devolves into the characters that are, not to toot my own horn or anything, but I've done some interesting and some amazing things in my life, and um, more often than not, other than the creatures that we occasionally encounter in these games, some of the
Mhm.
things I've been a part of would make for great, apparently great RPG sessions because of the low bar that's been set over the years for what we can do in our fantasy or science fiction RPGs. Uh,
Mhm.
I don't get it. We watch a lot of very intense, high level science fiction stories. Regardless
Mhm.
of the medium, and it's okay if somebody else does it, but trying to reproduce it or
Well, like most people just boil all those things down to the combat scene and nothing else.
Mhm.
And that's where you're losing the pitch when you're trying to make the whole game the 10 minutes of the movie that was a fight scene.
Mhm.
Well, it was 10 minutes in the movie for a reason. It's 10
Or less.
minutes to 10, like, well, I'm talking about all the fight scenes in an action film,
Right.
right?
Okay.
You take all the fight scenes or all the combat scenes in like Dune and shove them all together. It's like a tenth of the book, if not less.
Mhm.
And when you try to stretch that into a 4 hour session and then another 4 hour session, then another 4 hour session, then another 4 hour
Or God
session.
help you, an 8 hour session. You've just
Yeah.
spent your entire, the entire book in one session, and that's the whole. That's
And
all.
it's just like 40 pages worth of material, if not less, right? It might be 100. My copy of Dune is over there, so I couldn't tell you how many pages it was. But it's at least a 300-page book, so
Right. And how much combat? I mean, there was like almost no combat in the very
yeah.
first book of Dune.
Yeah. And that's the best one because it's all about the interpersonal play of the characters
Mhm.
and and the NPCs and the the knowing what's going to happen, but having to find a way out of it and then not finding a way out of it. And that's the first third of the book. Then the
Mhm.
second third is like, well, now what do we do? And the last third is, well, here are the consequences for you being a dick, right? Um, and most people try to just do like the one or two fight scenes in the first two thirds of the story, and then the here are the consequences for you being a dick for a week, like a week of time, broken up over sessions. And it's like that's why your game sucks, bro. Like full stop. That's why your game sucks. Not you personally. There have been a few sessions, bro, that yours has gone that way, but like you said, your struggling's not going the way you thought it would. But whatever, it's
Mhm.
if you're working on it, you're working on it. But like Critical Role is just that. It's that and a bunch of dick jokes, and like dick jokes
I've
are funny
honestly
every now
never
and
seen
then.
any of that sort of thing. Uh,
Yeah.
that was already kind of, I'm not going to say dead or anything like that, but it was
Hmm.
already well established what it was by the time I had first heard about it. And I'm like, I'm not interested. There was, when I first heard about it, it was like this just reeks of not being real. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't, but
It could be the polish that the characters are actually trained in how to present themselves. So, like the players are actually trained on how to present themselves in the visual format. So, even if it was 100% real, they're all like all the players have the actual skill to put on a good presentation. So you got that, and then you've got like it's making money, so they can afford to hire editors and shit.
yeah, which none of us have that opportunity or those
Or
resources.
or even the ability to do it in real time in person.
Yeah.
I wish we had a third wheel here to bounce ideas off of.
Yeah, I sent the link out to the regular folks, and I know some of them are busy. Grandma's out there, she can pop in if she'd like, if she's got something to add to this, because other than the one game that I'm running, I can't think of too many, fantasy things that I haven't done already. I am getting ready to read something that I've had for a long time that is sort of upper level fantasy, that being the Planescape box set. Because I just, I've done that sort of thing where the players have gone to other planes or other dimensions, other worlds. But I'm curious to see what that was all about. But again, it's, to me, it just seems so odd that, in our fantasy games, even when we do go to other worlds, they're just other fantasy worlds. They're not, it's not a high tech world. I know that, like, when you take, for example, you bring Conan into the modern day with Doctor Doom and that sort of thing, it seems kind of, ridiculous in a way. But at the same time, I remember reading where Iron Man and Doctor Doom went back to King Arthur's court, and that was a really good story. You know, uh, bouncing off, trying to hide the fact that they were tech and just pretending it was magic and things like that. It was very, very interesting. The same with the Warlord comic book. You got this fighter pilot that falls into the hole in Antarctica and ends up in the lost world with dinosaurs and wizards and all this other crap at the center of the earth. He's running around with a some sort of high tech pistol, limited number of shots, but still, he's that guy. He knows all these things, uh, sciency things, that we take for granted that could be, if you were to throw like MacGyver, take MacGyver and throw him into, the Connecticut Yankee and King Arthur's court, the things he'd be able to pull off, in any era of the past, which is essentially what we're kind of doing when we, take fantasy and bring it into sci-fi or sci-fi into fantasy. It's really just, more or less a time travel thing with different laws of physics depending on where who goes where. And so many other people have done it, and some of these people didn't even do it great. They just did it well, but because they had the courage to do so, it's
but it's still like it goes back to the distilling combat and having that connective tissue. Like the people that do it actually have other storylines, other motivations than right. Like you had us roll up our family trees in AD&D, but they're effectively like you could just have easily cut that section out of the character sheets for the game we're playing because because we're stuck on a ship. So
Right. No,
often
I
it
wanted to use it
allows.
for uh,
Mhm.
it helped me to determine, certain things about the characters,
Mhm.
how they would start out, what they would end up what they would end up doing, especially uh, like Grimm and Omenau's character, as well as Armstrong's character and uh, Mac's character. Uh, I really got to do more. Part of the problem is, uh, I think there is, most people want like a really big group, and I think
I'm
that's
the opposite.
actually, I'm learning that, no offense, because I love everybody in the group, but
Yeah.
it does seem that, the it's hard because, I'm used to, playing with a large group and a large amount of time at the same setting. But when you've
Mhm.
got like 6 8 people, and I'm finding this out as well in other groups I'm in, when you've got a large number of people but a very finite amount of time, you have to kind of sort of play to the common denominator, what you think everybody wants, you know to do. And I'm trying to get it to a point where it's all on you guys, because like uh the first chance was when the captain, was captured. I honestly thought that there would be a number of people who were like, "Fuck him, let's just take the ship and go." You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That could have easily, you know,
And I think that's the problem with over pre-planning, right? Like I was talking about this with Mr. Max last night, and those guys is they were talking about timing, and the scenario was like, what if you had a guy holding a knife to a princess's throat, and the game master wants the party to rescue the princess, and they're not catching that cue, or even if they do catch that cue but they don't give a shit. Is your story has to be flexible enough, it has to be open world enough that
mhm,
if that guy slits the princess's throat, it doesn't disturb the actual progression of the story, because you're only one of the writers at the table. The
mhm.
story being written is being written by everybody at that table,
Oh,
not just
absolutely.
you. And if you are framing things so your narrative points are more important than the person sitting next to you as the game master, you're not playing a role playing game. You're a storyteller with a fucking torch under your chin, expecting the audience to just listen. You know, you're like, the ghost is about to kill Billy, and no, you're scared. Like you're that guy.
Yeah, and I
Uh,
don't intend to be that guy.
well,
I was perfectly.
a lot of the older games, because of their roots in wargaming, train people to do that, and that's like a lot of like that's railroading. That's the framework of railroading, and there have been many different attempts to break it, and that's like what you should be striving for uh,
Yeah.
as a role player, to play the role, not the position in the party. Your role is not cleric. It's like
Not the what?
my role is not fighter in the party. My role is Al still got his hair bowl or whatever it was, because I couldn't think of a name. Uh, and that's even a bad thing, because I'm using an out of world reference, but the party is loose enough to get the joke and not let it interfere with the like. No one has been, well, I'm a member of No Ma'am as well, right? And the second someone else does that joke, I kill that character off, because he's
Yeah,
ruining the game at that
yeah.
point, right?
To be honest, I don't think that's a risk we have to worry about.
Yeah,
Uh,
but like the second an errant joke starts to interfere with the game, uh, you're breaking the world more than if someone pulls out a laser pistol in a sci-fi world, right? Like without there being a reason for it to be there within the confines of the story. Like you said, the interdimensional multiverse thing, right?
Well, no, I have
Well,
thought about that with the fact that the world was devastated by a cataclysm in the past. That world in the past could have been, you know,
super high tech. Well,
Yep.
it's the whole world of Shannara, right? The Shannara Chronicles and all that.
I'm not familiar with it.
You
I mean,
did
I'm
not.
familiar with it, by name, and I did play in a parody of it called the Sword of Shana Na, but that was a purely jokey sort of game,
Yeah.
and this was 40 years ago. So, and I was playing Elric of Melbourne. So, but
Yeah.
the owner of the store was playing uh, Bugs Bunny in a suit.
But yeah, that world is like magic evil reduces the world back to a fantasy setting from like 1992 or whatever. Right? Like that's it was Seattle-ish area that the
Okay.
events of that world takes place around. Uh, if you're to go by the TV series that was on MTV, because
Yeah, I remember seeing that, and I'm like, this
yeah,
doesn't look like what I remember from
the first
the.
season was really good. The first season held to the first cycle pretty well.
I think at the same time, though, I was also confusing it with the Ill Earth War. You
Different
remember
book
that?
series, no,
Okay.
but Terry Brooks wrote that series, and
Right.
he it was like a multi-generational one. So like the first couple of books follows one character, then the next couple of books follows like his son or his grandson or something like that, and it keeps going like that. And then it's like maybe his cousin over here, and then his nephew over there. Then there's like a prequel series that's like back in modern day.
Hmm.
That follows a girl that can see the spirits that are destroying the world, and then the follow-on series to that actually watches the world fall apart, like the apocalypse happening, which was very interesting. It was really good. It's worth picking up the series in any order, that like either release order or chronology. Uh, but if you get into that, it's like 80 books, so be careful.
Really?
Yeah.
I assume you're exaggerating on the number of actual books.
I don't think I am.
Wow. I can't. I mean,
How many books are in the Shannara universe?
because the only thing I can think of that really comes close to that is like BattleTech.
42. Sorry, 42.
Wow.
42 since the 70s, right? Since the late
Really?
70s. Yeah.
That's fucking crazy.
Uh,
I don't know that I would live long enough to be able to get through all that.
maybe I killed them all in audiobook
I was thinking about that
a couple of
uh,
summers ago.
because I'm getting ready to do a book club on the channel because a friend of mine was talking about doing it, never did it. I'm like, okay, you waited long enough. I'm stealing your idea.
Was it me?
No,
Because I was
no,
talking about doing that for a while.
no, no, no. But you are more than welcome to join because
Yeah.
we'll do a similar thing, here on whichever night. It might even be a Thursday night that we'll still paint and whatever, but actually talk about a specific book that everybody will agree on reading a specific book, and 2 weeks later we come back and talk about it. But audiobooks are out. You can't
No.
audiobook it because I find that with audiobooks, you are usually people are doing that because they're doing something else. And when I
I
read
have to do audiobooks these days, man. I can't. Like
really
long form reading, it kills me ever since
well,
Messenger.
what if it's like under 200 pages?
Doesn't matter.
Really?
I read so much for work that by time I sit down for leisure that
Because I find that
my
when
brain
I
just
do an
can't do it
audiobook,
anymore.
when I do an audiobook, I don't get as immersed
Some people are like that, but I've done them for long enough that
to where I'm like, I'm cooking or I'm, in the shower or something like that. I'm doing other things, but when I sit and
no,
read an actual book, I am completely immersed. Everything disappears except what I'm reading, and I enjoy it so much more. I even like normally I'm like when I'm reading game review books that I'm reviewing, I'm listening to stuff at the same time because there's all I'm not reading the stats, you know what I mean? I'm not
mhm.
reading the numbers and stuff like that. Someone I think it was Jackie's mom or something said, why don't they have those on audiobook? Well, because no one's going to sit and read off the to hit tables. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
you can't do. You can do the lore books for role
Right.
playing games, which if you want like this, I'm telling you this, you want your independent role playing company to become more successful. The novel is where the marketing is, right? Like those guys doing Arduin, yeah, they have the rights to license out novels. They should do that.
Hmm.
Like
I think that's
there is a
in the works, but
there is a structure for creating coherent universes. There are templates for that to keep authors in line and have an editing staff for that.
mhm.
But like that is just a like 300 to 800 page billboard out there that you pay for once, and you definitely want it in an audible format because that's a like a marketing department for you. But having one of those come out every 3 to 6 months or every month, preferably, it is a way to get a revenue into your company and b advertisement for your product that otherwise like
And give the fans and
like
critics alike things to talk about, specifics besides just
I like
mechanics.
this number.
Yeah, or I like this die mechanic or whatever. Who
Mhm.
cares? I mean, what happened? What happened in the story? You know,
Yeah.
we don't talk about that when we talk about Star Trek or BattleTech. Well, maybe not BattleTech, but
No,
we don't.
even in BattleTech, like 90% of the time, people aren't talking about the stats of mech or whatever. They're talking about like what company produced it, what year, for what reason, right? Like because there's every single unit in BattleTech has a manufacturing history. Uh, uh, the reason why the plant is destroyed, so you can't get as many of them anymore. And,
I never hear those conversations when it comes to
yeah,
BattleTech.
like everything. It's so in depth that what's the car company that made the I think it was like GM General Electric or
Mhm.
whatever. Um, that they named one of their cars after a mech because the mech was made by that company in universe.
Oh, really?
So you can actually get like there's this one car that came out in like 2008 or something like that. You can get a limited edition that has like a decal of that mech on the fender.
Really?
Yeah,
That's a bold move.
yeah,
Considering how few people in the company probably know a damn thing about it. You know, um,
yeah.
how many people at the company are actually reading or playing BattleTech.
Probably none of them, but it was just a joke in one BattleTech book, like naming off this mech that was built by that company, and then like 2.5 decades later, there's a callback to it by that company, right?
That's cool.
Yeah,
That's cool. People
but
should do more
like,
stuff like that. Just not with the your Pepsi, your Doritos, things
well,
like that.
that's the fact. That is like those companies used to be a lot cooler about that stuff.
Right.
Like you could have done
Or
that.
the Burger Wars.
Yeah, or the Burger Wars. Next thing you know, you're in an alleyway being attacked by clowns.
It's a good movie, man. I don't care what
Yeah.
anybody says. It was a good, solid movie for a
Funny as fuck.
tiny little budget with two solid greats of
Yeah, Real Men for
time.
anyone that don't know. Great movie.
Tom Ritter was
And these days, you and I could make that movie.
yeah, I know.
Yeah.
That wouldn't be
Sad.
a bad idea, remaking that movie, with the
Well, maybe not the exact same story because that would be plagiarism, but we could write. I think both of us could write an equally as good script. Same level of quality, anyway.
it would be really funny. I'll talk to you about it later. I don't want to give any ideas
Yeah.
away.
Hey, any of you out there think you could film the level of a Hallmark movie? They have a template you can get. They ask for certain things, and they will buy anything that comes to them that meets the marks in
It hits
the
all those
template.
bullet points.
Hits those bullet points and
Kind of like
is
the way the
is
Star
filmed.
Trek episodes have a formulaic process.
Yeah, they have a formulaic thing you can get from them. You dig around on the internet. It's out there, and if you can match the filming quality, and the filming quality is not that high, yeah, that they will buy that shit from you. It's it's job work, right? In filming, Hallmark movies is job work, right? Like you want to make money, you make Hallmark movies. You put
If
that
you
money
want
to
a steady, regular income,
yeah, and you build up your ability to write something quickly, and then you take the money you make from that to put into a passion project, and you're not beholden to some studio somewhere. Yeah. You crush the real world dark gods in our society. Oh,
yeah, I
can't believe nobody's joined us. It's been like an hour and a half, 2 hours.
it's probably just one of those uh, weekends. I know for us here, it was like really, really like up in the 85s, early on, and maybe the rest of the country is finally experiencing that with hey, this is great weather, let's go do stuff, and sitting in front of their screen. I get it, but I figured with Dune being such a thing right now, amongst our friends who absolutely love every page of that. I was curious to see why. It's okay when other people do it, but we're afraid to do it. It literally, to me, seems like we're, you know, either afraid or, you know, we don't feel confident enough to do it, or, we don't know the genre. But I'm like, everybody we know, with a few exceptions, more than dabbles in sci-fi.
Mm-hmm.
But their game of choice is usually, when it comes to RPGs, it's fantasy. But when it's like tabletop, it's science fiction.
Yeah.
Games and stuff like that. I'm like, why can't we role play in sci-fi? It seems to me, and it's always gonna. It's easier to speak. You don't have to use the these and the thous. You know what I
I don't
mean?
use those in fantasy anyway.
You'd be amazed how many people I bumped into who do that.
Yeah, I think
Uh,
that's more of an
and
old school thing, though.
it probably is. And mind you, not everybody I've met, but there are a few folks that will do it. Especially, I think it all depends on the character they're playing. But a lot of magic users, they tend to try to do that to seem more magic userly, I guess, or
Hmm.
the priests and stuff. But in sci-fi, there's no word we can't use. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? All the slang, you can even make up your own slang. Whereas back in the old days, they didn't even have slang. I mean, they
Well,
probably did,
they did, but it's
but
just it was discouraged in literary works, and I told you this once like a year ago when you were talking about stainless steel rat. And I said I couldn't get into it because it felt more dated to me than a Sherlock Holmes novel, right?
it very
Because of the
much
slang.
was. Yeah, you know, someone, because especially when you think about someone in the,
It felt more dated than a book 100 years older than it.
because it was trying to create a whole new thing. It's
Yeah,
kind of like the first time you heard some of the stuff in Firefly.
yeah,
Maybe not, where they were trying to impose this slang. There was a mixture of Chinese and English. You
yeah,
know,
and some Cantonese or whatever, or Mandarin, or not
right at the same
Taiwanese
time.
or whatever.
Uh,
Um,
which I think it worked, um, only because of our acceptance, as opposed to where
well,
would we really buy
the
this if we weren't buying into everything else at the same time?
the difference between that is there is an understanding in modern sci-fi than retro sci-fi, which is, and retro I mean like 60s, not 30s, because 30s is still in that category of using raw English, right? Like they might have a technical term made up for a science, or try to use scientific terms.
Like John Carter, right?
Yeah, where by the 60s, because of the free form and
The new
hippie,
wave of sci-fi.
yeah, you would get guys being futuristic by using contemporary slang, where um there was enough time of people like nerds thinking about things, or being annoyed at contemporaryisms in the future, right? Like in 2027, they're still wearing fucking bell bottoms and tie-dye shirts or whatever, right? It's like you see that in even 90s television sci-fi that become really dated, or I'll even point it out every now and then, um, when I'm watching stuff downstairs. Is This is going to be dated in 5 years because the fashions are bleeding edge contemporary, and
Mhm.
not like you have a nice sharp suit, but it's like this year's fashions of a nice sharp suit, when they could have taken at least the time to cut the collar off, or
Mhm.
change the lapel a little bit. You have a
Mhm.
costume department; those people know how to do that stuff,
Mhm.
right?
Yep, I
Like,
know exactly what you're talking about.
it's an
There,
off
there
the
was
rack,
a.
but like when your sharp looking guys look like they just walked off the set of Suits, because they're wearing the exact same fucking thing as the lawyers in that lawyer show. Yeah,
Mhm.
UFO, right? TV fashion, but still, it wasn't. It was different, but with the same style cues of contemporary fashion, right?
I think that's one of the things that really worked with Firefly.
Yeah.
By going back to retro clothing from the West and the pioneer days and that sort of thing, it made it
But
probably really easy.
a lot of those things that like that were made for utilitarian reasons. Like those
Yep.
clothing that they were wearing were utilitarian clothing. Only in the actress you like, and
Nara,
the space prostitute,
yeah, and our
Anara, and the doctor,
but
Tam.
even his
Like
outfits
those
were
two outfits were actually of fashion and not of
right,
utilitarian need,
right, but they were
and
still
they were
based
different.
on the fashion of the. I don't know about Inara's clothing that didn't
Anara
matter.
is like space priestess prostitute fashion, right?
Right, so
It's
it
like
could have been
loose
anything,
fabrics and whatever, right? But it's not something you can go into Hot Topic and buy.
Mhm.
And you can't go into your local suit store and buy what was his name? The
Simon.
Simon Tam, yeah.
But there were some outfits that were very still had a Western cut to them.
Yeah, well,
You
all
know,
those
but they were more of
were
like the fancier dress, the city slicker
yeah,
northerner type, styles than
yeah,
the people who were working the harder,
yeah.
expansionist, frontiersmen, sort of like you said, utilitarian. Everything was made strictly because
And there was
to avoid
even
situations or to make other situations easier.
and
Like
there
with
was there was even an episode where they made fun of the aristocrats dressing in ball gowns like they were from hundreds of years ago. They deliberately created their fashion to replicate an older time.
Mhm.
Remember the episode where
with the Lassiter or the
uh
duel.
yeah, the duel where they went to the ball, you took the
Mhm.
yeah. Um so the knock-on effects of that is why the poorer people have those clothing, because they're like fast fashion now. You get like the high fancy uh designer makes something for the rich people, and then the smaller design companies mimic it, right?
Mhm.
And especially if they're being made by robots, which they probably are. The clothing in that world is probably being made mostly by machines,
Mhm.
even in the poorer areas. Hmm. I don't know. Maybe.
Yeah, it's kind of funny because they could have gone with a more modern military vibe, because that
They
kind of gear.
they do in the few times they meet the what's the government calling that? It's been so long. I have it sitting on my hard drive, but I haven't watched it in a decade.
Yeah, it's
Um,
been a long time.
the few times they meet the starships that look like skyscrapers in space.
Hmm.
Um, they meet those guys, and they're all in like uh future military outfits with Starship Trooper helmets, because I think that series also used the Starship Trooper helmet.
Yeah,
Uh,
it had a very UN sort of feel to it.
yeah, like a very 1990s corporate sci-fi environment, um,
Mhm.
where everyone's kind of wearing a suit, but it's cut a little different and got
Thinner lapels, thinner
yeah
collars because they're useless, and they were just
and
there for
yeah and
to show you who made them, basically.
Yeah, and to give you a tonally different feel to the world, but those costumes are always the cheapest looking ones in the series when they should be the most expensive looking ones, which is funny.
Yeah, because if you think about it, like camis and khakis and military BDUs and things like that would be a lot easier to hand out to the settlers. You know what I mean? But using the Old West attire, it almost gave it like a homespun feel to it.
Well,
Like,
I assume that the first colonies do the low tech thing, which was why they were going for. So you'd have the natural fabrics, which are
I would
thicker.
think it would be kind of like the opposite. The first people to land would be
No,
corporate military guys in camis. They come in and clear the area, set everything up, and then the second wave would be more like that.
yeah, but they're the ones actually building the infrastructure of crops and
Yep,
harvestable materials.
log cabins or
Yeah,
homesteads made out of whatever's there. Instead
so
of bringing tents, you're bringing axes.
yeah, well, you might have a tent too for the time you're cutting down trees, but it's not going to be good for long term.
No.
But the first fabric productions are going to be natural. So their first exports of raw material will be wood and crop, but the first industrial product they'll be releasing is fabrics. So that's why you got a lot of the really rich natural fabrics in the world, because they're the first synthetic thing that you can make, right? Yeah.
I hope
So
we
that's a
get a chance
lot
to
more thought into the economy than I give Josh Whedon any credit for.
might have just got lucky. I don't know. It's still to this day one of my favorite TV shows, and even in that, we had the
It's
beginnings of
it,
a Kwisatz Haderach with River.
yeah, yeah,
Imagine if her experimentation had gone properly and had been more successful, which she
yeah.
and people like her could have been. You know,
Mm-hmm.
it
Well,
it's weird because that was a good way to look at like a sci-fi traveler campaign group. You've got all
mhm.
these people, but then you got the one psychic person over there that literally would just smoke the entire crew without even trying.
But I also like the way they played it in the show, where it's like if you weren't paying very very close attention, she's just a disturbed girl.
Yeah,
Yeah,
right.
and like
And
really close attention, she's
right.
just a disturbed girl.
Oh, she's all
Um,
fucked up from the
from
stuff, from
yeah,
that's the thing that that's and mind you, that's she's like a failure. You know what I mean? A
no,
failure,
she was their
and
best success.
well, in a way,
Yeah,
it's like a 50-50, perfect, a great success on one end, but not enough to keep it together.
well, yeah, that's
Imagine
true.
the next person out of the program is going
Would
to
have
be way
been
better,
yeah.
way better.
Well,
What they learned from their mistakes could be revolutionary. It could create an entire new species of
yeah.
humanity within a generation, and then you have like the Psychor in Babylon 5,
Mhm.
which should have been able to, you know, run the entire
Well, they were getting
thing.
close to it. They were getting really close to it before they got stopped. Um, but and the whatever the corporate government was called, for the life of me I can't remember. If any of you want to do a quick Google search out there, um, they had been on the real dark end of eugenics in that show, because um what's his name? The preacher. Um,
Book.
book. Yeah, I wanted to say something very close. I'm spacing out, man. Um, he was part of the same order of the hunter that was after them in the show, and then
Mm-hmm.
they had another guy in the movie that was after them. That was a
Mm-hmm.
different character, and they were all black men of a religiously zeal bent, right? So they were like a group of people, and Book was obviously an older generation, but they were a group of people bred for a purpose,
Mm-hmm.
right? And I think that was very clever casting men in that were very similar in appearance and demeanor, because it gives that that consistency of excessive control that they were going for, which is like the neoliberal archetype. I'm pretty sure, like most people talking about, say, Helldiver or Starship Troopers would say fascist, but it's actually neoliberalism. Um,
Mm-hmm.
that has that kind of uniformity in control, with its psychological
Even down to
manifest.
the line from the guy with no name. In a
Uh,
perfect world, there'd be no need for people like me.
yeah, where in the neoliberal world they want everyone to be people like that. Yeah,
And
which is
both of those types of characters, River and the hunters, were
yeah. Well, River
on the verge
was
of the next stage of human evolution.
yeah. The hunters were like physical perfection, where River was going to be the
Mental.
tool, like the perfect detection unit for disobedience, right? Um, that
Human, scanners,
yeah.
lie
Well,
detectors,
yeah,
people finders,
yeah, and that's
people
why
readers,
when you look into in the movie, when they unveil reveal what she was, the senator, his last words are, "Have you heard of this project? You brought me into a room with a person who can read minds," right? And then he dies or whatever. Like she breaks through because he was aware of the the Ravager.
potentiality of
Yeah, no,
being
the
exposed.
Ravager program, right? The one that created
The
the
reavers.
Reavers. Yeah, I kept saying Ravagers, but the Reavers. So that's how she found out, because they brought someone with knowledge into her range, and that's why the whole escape thing
Yep.
was plausible. But yeah, that's definitely a path to a uh Akira moment there, right? Those are the
Mhm.
foundational. That's
Right,
that
and
that's that's what they were
every
trying to do in Akira, create a transcendent person, and that program got shut down.
and all every good series, at least, whether it be books or TV or movies, cannot escape that futuristic
Hmm.
movement toward a better and better person,
Yeah.
whether it be more skilled, or adding gadgets, or adding just things to the DNA. It's inevitable.
Mm.
And the next generation had, or not the next generation, the original series had a ton of people like that, a ton of characters like that, but they're
Hmm.
always the bad guys, or they're always the thing to be you know uh, defeated or dealt with in some manner, as opposed to embraced, at least in the original series of Star Trek. later on, I'm sure, you know, the Federation would take those people or that knowledge, you know, and have their own secret programs to where, you know, the elite would be getting the benefits of whatever that was, you know, whatever, you know, expanded the mind or heightened the senses or any of that. Eventually, you
Well,
would have.
um, in Star Trek, right? Like that was there was a big pull on actually preventing the elite from doing that kind of stuff, and that was like the whole story with the one movie that everybody hates in the TNG, the the cloud one. Um,
With that entity that was trapping them in the cloud or the
uh,
void.
the planet that kept the world immortal or whatever, and they were cycling it
Oh,
off as a family youth.
right, right, right.
Yeah, like
With the
that
like the
was like
Roman or the Greek gods.
no. This was a movie. Um, well, I think it was the second movie,
For Star Trek?
The Next Generation.
Really, I don't remember that at all.
Um, yeah, they had the planet full of people in the nebula, and the Federation had
Oh, you mean the Nexus?
the Nexus. Was it the
Oh,
Nexus?
that was Generations with
Not the ribbon. That was a loose base on a novel from the
hold on,
90s.
I gotta check
Yeah,
this. Practicing and it's
yeah. The one after that where there was the planet, and some of their kids left the planet, and they weren't immortal anymore, and they were using like surgeries to prolong their life. And they all look like face stretched. Um,
I don't think I saw that one.
yeah, it's the second one. It doesn't matter. The Federation had lost the Dominion War, or well, fought the Dominion War, and they were trying to. One admiral was trying to use the cloud to create pseudo immortality for the elites in the Federation.
I don't think I saw that one. I'm
Yeah,
pretty sure
it was pretty okay. Uh,
yeah, that, none of
it's the
that's ringing
second
a bell.
movie. Yeah. Uh, yeah. Maybe look it up later. But yeah, Grandma, River rebelled. Like, if you pay attention to the story from when she was a kid, uh, her family was all bought in on the system, right? So she was offered that program to go to for special training, and
Go, go.
everything was greater good because everybody in the program didn't have mental access to any of the bad things that the government had done. So everything was conditioning, right? And so she was all bought in and on board with what was going on, even though it was torture. But the second that guy walked in and confronted her with all is not what it seems, um, that's when cooperation for the greater good becomes rebellion against the Dark Lord, right? And you can see that in our own government when it becomes our own governments, when it becomes defense of the the um the institution over the purpose of the institution of democracy, right? You keep seeing, like, you'll constantly see someone on CNN or Fox uh, parrot the line of defending our democracy by shutting down people's right to vote, or what people can vote on, are the expression of one's democratic will. And to bring back a reference, I mentioned the game Helldiver. That's what they're mocking in that. With
I've never heard of that.
it's a new computer game. The lore's out there. But the running tagline is our limited democracy or our controlled democracy, and it's like, yeah, you can vote for whatever you want as long as it's this one thing we give you to vote on. Henry Ford's you can get Model T in any color as long as it's black, kind of democracy.
Okay.
Yeah. And that's what our governments are, right? Across the Western world today. You can vote blue or red, but it means the exact same thing. So, what use is
It
it?
seems that way sometimes.
Well, if you pay close attention, it's not sometimes; it's all the time. They will rah about not liking what the other side's doing, but when it comes time to undo what the other side does, they don't. So they must have been in favor of it the whole
Is
time.
that what it was, Grandma? I'm pretty sure I've never seen that one.
Yeah, because the Enterprise had to kind of go rogue because the operation was like led by an admiral or whatever. Even though, if it was above board, why isn't it a Federation ship doing it? You know, I recommend watching it. It's a weaker story, but it's got some ethical implications that are worth thinking about.
So we talked about one part of the title, but we have completely skipped the other two. The
Well, elder gods are star gods. And
because everything else implies like it's happening for the first time now, or it's just starting to happen. But what about those things that have been in place, out there in the galaxy that have been out there forever, for millions of years, thousands of years, what have you, things
well,
like the Vorlons or the Cthulhu's, the ancient ones, or things like that. Would you ever could you picture a situation or a campaign or a story where we, as puny Earthmen, come across, things out there that, we
I
probably
think
shouldn't have ever come in contact with?
they are best done with very limited exposure and as aloof entities. Like every time in Babylon 5, up until the Shadow War, they're they're always like something you run from or something you don't realize is actually that powerful. That's upside down.
Yeah, because I hit it with a speed paint and it's running down in places, and
Okay.
then after a bit I'll turn it back the other way so it'll go where I want it. I do that with washes too. If I put a wash on too much and it starts pooling, then I just use gravity to get it back where I wanted it
Yeah.
instead of trying to mess with it. Because sometimes I want those deep lines to go back and forth, those folds. Because this thing
Yeah.
is nothing but cloaks and hoods and stuff, and I want those recesses to get
So
saturated and not run down to the edge or the tip of the cloak. I want it to go backwards. So
yeah, be as clear at the top as it is at the bottom.
yeah, I don't know who I
But
learned
yeah.
that from, but I learned it a long time ago. I think it was Rob Oren. Yeah, beings who see us as insects, but now we see them and they know we see them, or things that you know.
Well,
Uh,
it's like the Vorlon. The Vorlon are perfect for 90% of the series of Babylon 5. They're just a guy in a suit walking around,
Mhm.
and everybody's what's with those guys?
But see, unfortunately, that's been done. You know what I mean? What about the the beings that know they're superior to us and decide to put
Well,
us
that's
in.
the Shadow War, right?
Well, I mean, that's because we are. We are superior to you guys.
I mean, out there in space, you monkey.
Oh, but also, like, below the board. Whatever, it doesn't matter. Can I charge this?
Yes, you can.
Thank you.
Racist.
I'm not
You
racist.
just-
No, I'm just right.
Oh,
I
Yes, you are.
kid. I kid.
so you feeling better?
Lies, you don't kid.
Huh.
See that practicing?
Yeah.
Everybody was applauding
Oh,
your progress.
Thank you.
Because there've been a few like alien invasion stories out there, quite a few actually, but they always have to make it where they're just a little bit better than us. And who does he sound exactly like? I can't imagine, Raven. Who does he sound exactly like?
Who is he?
If you're implying his old man, trust me, you're probably right.
No,
I am not
no,
related to that kid whatsoever.
But he probably just flips it, what I give him, and he just turns it around and tries to flip it back on me. But yeah, I mean, think about it. Like all of the Martians,
The
they're always
Alliance.
just a little bit better than us, not superior in every way. Where
No,
they just
the Martians from the War of the Worlds were epically superior. They were practically a doomsday thing. Like
you mean the original H.G. Wells?
yeah, if the Martians from H.G. Wells didn't have the susceptibility to the cold or whatever it was, we would have all been exterminated.
Yeah. No, I was talking about some of the other, like the what was it, Third Wave, or was it the other one, War of the Worlds?
First wave. What was the one with?
Okay, but I'll tell this.
The one with the pretty boy that was framed for killing his wife.
I think that was Third Wave.
I thought it was First Wave.
What?
They send you the regular audio files you need to sync them up with.
No, you didn't. Send it email them. Yeah, that way I can send it anyway. Yeah, it was. I know what you're talking about, where the humans, or the aliens, were able to look like they were both. They were able to do that in both shows, though, weren't they? Where they looked human just to save on costumes.
Yeah, that makes sense for budgetary reasons. You get a low budget sci-fi movie.
But what was the one? Was it Falling Skies, where they just bitch slapped us into freaking oblivion?
Yeah.
Things like that. But okay.
So if you
are like that, what are their leaders like?
Yeah, if you were doing a Falling Skies series in games, like if our group was doing a Falling Skies game, we should be on the climax of that game by the number of sessions we were in, just because there's only so much time you can spend in that before it becomes
or
absolute
the
tedium.
The invasion from Robotech. They come
like,
in and just...
There's a reason why every season had to, besides the fact that they were patching that together from different shows, but there's a reason why they had to change the bad guy every season. In that, like, if you watch it, that they radically change the environment that they're fighting in.
From Falling Skies?
No, from Robotech.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, they have to change it every season, not just because of the source material,
Well, there was only 3 seasons of Robotech, right? The Zentradi, the
Yes,
Masters, and the Invid.
yeah, but the source material was patched together from other shows, right? So from anime shows.
Mhm.
But they had to change the bad guy each season because that concept, that storyline becomes very dull really quick, especially with the
And they
high
weren't
paced
able to
nature.
go. They weren't able to go the Walking Dead route, where
Yeah,
it's the people that are really the bad guys, not the bad guys that are the bad guys.
yeah,
The humans are the
and
bad guys.
there are other subcontexts to that show that
But yeah,
are
in
kind of
that in that
repetitive.
in that
Right?
respect, that's sort of a situation. But when you have like, you know, one of those situations, think of whoever, like for Robotech example, whoever was the leader of each of those 3 factions, the Zentradi, the Masters, and the Invid. The people at the very top were, as close to gods as you
Well,
can, imagine in a lot of ways.
I don't know because those are alien races.
Mhm.
That's if you think the government of your own country is morally and physically superior to you. In
Oh God,
most
no, no, no.
cases, they're the opposite. They're
It's
the
easier to
absolute trash heap.
look at that like that when it is a completely different species.
Well,
You
yeah,
know,
and I think that's like a false dichotomy, right? Like the people in charge of the Zentradi Empire are as trashy as the people in charge of the American Empire.
um, I don't know because
Yeah.
in uh in the at least with the Zentradi at the very end, when they were about there came a point, and it was too late, unfortunately. But the leader, Britai, or whoever he was, or Dolza, he's like at the last moment he realized, oh wait, no, this is wrong. We've made the biggest mistake. Is it too late to fix this? We need to actually work with these little people. In the books, he actually had that moment of like, oh my
Yeah.
God, what have we done? You know what I mean? He realized, unfortunately he died in the next page, but there was
Well, that's because he had an active moral conscience as a leader of a government.
right. And
Of course, the Clintons shot him twice in the back of the head.
no, I think it was the humans that actually destroyed him. But
Shut up, man! Like I said, the
I
Clintons shot him
honestly, I
twice.
never watched the Masters. I remember reading the books. I had all 18 of the paperbacks, 18 plus whatever, and I read the Master series, but I can't remember almost anything about it. And with the Invid were literally on the edge of this biological high tech magic thing, and they were evolving and be going from their bug self to this weird sort of butterfly human hybrid kind of thing,
Mhm,
that uh, was evolving to a much higher spiritual plane. So they were,
mhm,
I don't know how to explain it, but it was close to emulating becoming some sort of super being.
mhm,
Whereas in a brand new story, you could have things that are far superior mentally and physically and even spiritually, I suppose, than us, humans, because it hasn't been done yet. Everything else has always got to follow this sort of, humans are the good guys despite their flaws. Well, what if there's something out there that's actually way better than us on every freaking level, and they come across us? Kind of like in a Small Talent for War, from Twilight Zone, but the opposite. They're, they're the big galactic peacekeepers, and they're going, these guys are going to be a problem in a couple of 100 years. Let's do away with it. But then, of course, you're playing the scrappy humans. You got to, revolt against the thing that, has anything contrary
yeah.
to say, against humans being exterminated. You can't just,
You gotta do
lay
the
down.
humanity. Fuck yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And what if
Which
humanity is the bad guys, which,
mhm.
if you look
Which
around,
sometimes we are.
right. And what if, it was in fact, the situation? Because I mean, if there's aliens out there, there are going to be aliens out there that are freaking way better than us. You know,
And some that are going to be way worse.
right, right, and you know, we always, you know, want to, you know, write the stories about, you know, we're always the good guys, but what if that isn't the
Yeah.
case? You know,
Well, yeah,
or you know, or we're at that point where we can go either way, you know, and we gotta, you know, decide which way we're gonna go. Are we gonna be the plague on the galaxy, you know, the cockroaches that infest everything and screw it all up, the locusts, or are we gonna be, you know, our better selves?
there was like one of those short stories that are on YouTube. Like either somebody wrote it and it was on Reddit or whatever, or an AI wrote it or whatever. But it was about like humanity's first exposure to like the Intergalactic Council,
Mhm.
and the representative got the like charter of Galactic UN and was like, okay, so if we don't build a faster than light ship ourselves, we can expand as far as we want, right? Until we actually build our own FTL generator. We can like rent space on someone else's ship and, and have them drop our colony off, right?
Mhm.
So like there was a cap written in their space charter that said
Okay.
if you're an FTL species, you're only allowed to expand this much at per cycle. You can only set up a new colony every 10 years or whatever, right? According to a lottery. That way, the whole galaxy isn't full within a decade or whatever, right?
From
You're not
us
like
overpopulating everything.
you're not sending 10 people to one world to claim it and have no ability to do anything with it, right? Uh, so that's kind of how the charter was set up, but it didn't take effect until after you built an FTL ship. So we were just renting colony space on every ship for like 100 years.
Don't you only need like 16 or 32 people or pairs of male and female?
Well, it's something like that, right? Like it doesn't matter. We were like 4 billion people of the population just become colonists, right? you know, like they're all sent out to like hundreds of worlds. But the joke is everyone was learning how to build their FTLs from human academies, even though we hadn't built one yet. It's just like it was like gaming the system. Like we were officially not done it yet, just so we could send out all these colonies faster than the charter would permit
Just
if we
proving
actually.
that greed is universal.
Well, no. We were being greedy and being rules lawyers.
Right,
It
but
was
who
all
would take
about
our
being.
money is what I mean.
Well, yeah, well, they weren't thinking about it, and by the time anybody noticed, like a third of the galaxy was inhabited by humans.
Right, because I
So
mean, if you think about it, you know, in order to get on those ships, you got to give them something as payment.
yeah, and
Earth
it goes
credits
to
are,
the
are, are
point where,
worthless, you know.
well, raw resource exchange, right?
Mhm.
And if you're setting up enough mining colonies across the universe that you're
Okay, and
monopolizing
then
space.
after like a certain period, then we are actually generating money that's
Yeah,
actually valuable.
and if it's just like haven't built it in our own shipyard yet, but we're setting up the academies to train people how to do the one thing, right? So like our technicians know how to build an FTL drive. They can get a job over in the Membari port building FTL drives, but they're not actually doing it at one of our ports, you know. So eventually everyone's coming to our academies to learn how to do the one thing we actually haven't done yet officially on paper, you know. It's like legalese, right? Legalese is the best language to learn always.
Yeah, and they say math is the universal language. Apparently, it's
Yeah.
not.
Well, that's the joke about Battlefield Earth, right? Like if you ever watched the movie and then read the
I
book,
was wondering when that was going to come in.
yeah, because
I was literally just thinking about that.
yeah, because the movie is the first half of the book, and the second half of the book is just like, now we've got lawyers. Just the whole thing is like accounting tricks and lawyers have to.
Wasn't that like Barry Pepper's last movie?
Barry Pepper, I don't know who that is.
I think he was the blonde guy who was in it. He was also in Saving Private Ryan.
I don't know.
The blonde guy with kind of bulgy, Eminem looking eyeballs.
It's been a while since I've seen it. Battlefield Earth.
Yeah, that was hot garbage.
Yeah. I'm not seeing his name
What the
here.
fuck? You got a bug on me. Where's the bug? Oh, come here. Come here. Come here. Come here. Come here. Come here. No, not a bug.
The book wasn't well written.
What was the one book series that he did that was like 10 or 20 books?
I have no idea.
I used to have a friend who was like really into that series of books. It was like one of the first decologies, L. Ron Hubbard. I mean, of all the people you're going to read in life, why, dude? Why?
I am not an L. Ron Hubbard fan, so
Yeah.
I couldn't tell you. I couldn't tell you the name of any of those books besides the one.
Some pretty weird shit, but it's funny the stuff that I remember because every time he'd come over, he would talk about the latest where he was in the book, And a lot of the stuff that he wrote about, we're seeing now. So be careful what you guys write, Someone's going to take it as a playbook later on down the road.
Well, man, I tell you, like Camp of the Saints and the Turner Diaries have become fucking playbooks for the government, man. Like
It's crazy shit.
You actually read those two books, and they're fucking playbooks. The governments took those horror stories and turned them into fucking instruction manuals.
I know, and it's weird because
and they were meant to be cautionary tales of what is going to come if things get any worse. And
I always talk about like Sun Green, Silent Running, Rollerball, Logan's Run.
Those things, those are more fiction than the two books I just mentioned.
But it's amazing because if you think about it, they were written by people like our age.
Yeah.
Way back in the 70s, and there should be like nobody left with any sort of influence whatsoever to be able to do that. And it's like hard to even to find those books or movies on Amazon. You can't find any of them for the most part.
Well, that's odd. Maybe they're just not relicensing them. I know you can download both of them off of like torrent sites because
I was smart enough to pick them up a long time ago.
I have Silent Green in a physical copy, and Rollerball just like does nothing for me.
Well, the trick with that movie is it's everything that happens off the rink is what's important.
Yeah, I know that.
And when you spend a little time and pay attention to it, you can see the grand design that's going on.
And even that sort of like normalization, that homogenization, that nobody can get above a certain level is being done on this very platform. Like before Trump, you could become like a pundit for ideas and things in this platform. They just don't allow that anymore. If you're not hawking a product on this platform, you don't get reach. Full stop. If you're not out there hawking like radio equipment or the approved narrative role playing game or whatever that they
Or even the next new
yeah
looks like it's going to be a big seller company like Timu. I'm getting tons of that
yeah
those ads, and I'm like, I'm never shopping there. This is garbage. This is
yeah
cheap, inferior garbage.
yeah.
And
Well,
you know,
Timu is meant to be a competitor to AliExpress. So
mhm.
I don't know if you know, like the Alibaba Corporation is a trade show. It's like the manufacturer version of Comic Con or whatever, right? It's where all the companies go to talk to each other about their new products in China and manufacturing processes. And
All of it's cheap
uh,
garbage.
no, like everything from material manufacturing to cars to like everything that is manufactured in China. Like we're used to the cheap garbage, but they actually make good things in China as well. You just have to know what to look for because they have different mentalities in advertising. But like you can go onto the Alibaba website and have them send you 400 containers of the exact same resin that Elegoo Mars sells, just without the label on it, right?
Hmm.
Because it's made in a Chinese factory, right? Elegoo being a Chinese company. Um, so if you're into 3D printing and you want to buy a fuck ton of resin for some reason, you can buy it wholesale from the manufacturing plant, just without the sticker on it. The exact same formula because it's a standardized formula. It's not patented. Um, so that's the thing. But AliExpress is those trade shows, those companies, extras. When you order a product, you order like 1,000 units of something, right? They'll make like 1,200 just for quality control, and then you get your 1,000, and the extra 200 that are like still in good quality, like the extra, like say 100 of them are still good quality, but they're not what you ordered, but they don't fail. They put on AliExpress.
Hmm.
So if you're like for example, where did I put it? I put it around here somewhere. Up here. I'm switching over to water like you, but I like to have it here, right? So instead of buying water bottles, I've got the jug, and I don't think this jug is big enough for me because I like to drink a lot of water throughout the day. I got one of these things, right? This goes on a like a water cooler bottle,
Okay.
and it pumps the water out and
Okay.
fills it in instead of having like a big thing. I can just put the jug here. Um, that there is made in a plant in China, and if you go, and then it'll get shipped to a warehouse in the U.S. and put up on Amazon. Like all the products on Amazon are pretty much made in China, and you'll pay like $20 for it or $25 for it. But then I order it straight from China from the manufacturer, and that's a white box product. So the person ordering it isn't ordering the full shipment; they're ordering a percentage of whatever the run is, and they just keep making it until they decide not to. And whoever orders it orders X number of units. Someone else orders the exact same product with a different sticker on the box, X number of units. Right? That's what a white box is.
Yeah.
So I ordered that from China, and it cost me like $12 instead of 20, and it just takes longer to get here. All right. So like you could order this, right, and put Shadow Limited Incorporated products on the box, right? And it would be your branded product in your Amazon store or on eBay if you wanted to keep it in your garage and mail it out yourself. That's the benefit of Amazon, is they have warehouse space, right? That's what you're paying for on Amazon when you're going there, is warehouse space.
The overhead of storage.
So basically, all I'm doing is not giving the percentage margin to Amazon when I order it from China, because it's the same product from the same manufacturing house. Or Walmart or Target or any of those major companies. They're all that good stuff you buy from them is made in the exact same plant as the bad stuff that you get from China. So like it's just how many stickers have been put on the box in between there and here to cover up where it's made. That's the problem with shipping your industry out of country, right? Besides the depression in economic labor. As what was the big thing? Trump was talking about moving all the Republicans is moving all the manufacturing out of China, but they weren't actually talking about bringing it back to North America, even if some of it ended up here in Canada or Mexico.
Sorry.
It happens. Is that they were just talking about moving it to India. Like you're not talking about bringing back the economy. No, you're just talking about throwing the ball down the road 20 years again, like you did with Japan, so some company can get an extra margin for a decade. Like, you're not talking about fixing the problem. You're talking about exacerbating it.
Or like you said, just kicking it down the road.
Which does exacerbate it, because it depresses the economy in your local area further. Over that time, you get a larger unemployment pool, as the businesses that are competing with cheaper made products, even though they're the same quality of construction, they're cheaper made because of the labor costs. All right, I was like, and then you talk about environmentalism, but what's the environmentalism of shipping 200 tons of cargo every half day or less halfway around the world, right? Like that's not an environmental impact.
Oh,
like,
absolutely.
It's not environmentalism. It's not environmental protection to move the pollution to another area, right?
Yeah, the planet doesn't care. It still adds up.
Yeah, and it's like the problem with the environmentalism movement is not that the problem doesn't exist; it's that they lie about it, right? Like on both sides, you have the liberals giving you false solutions that are blatantly false, and then conservatives just making it all about the economy instead of the actual issue. Like, you want to talk about the wrath of an elder god, see how it is when you can't breathe because the planet you're living on doesn't have the ecosystem to support oxygen production anymore.
It almost seems like the idiots in charge have all signed a suicide pact.
Well,
we can never have too many trees and too many farms, but yet they think that's a thing.
Yeah. They're all expecting to be the dome inhabitants in fucking Zardoz.
Or Logan's Run.
Yeah. Well, no,
Yes.
even Logan's Run. There's still food being produced.
Well, we never see them eat that I recall.
Logan's Run.
Yeah, I don't
Yeah,
remember that.
yeah. There was like um plaza areas and courtyards.
Yeah, I kind of vaguely remember like a food
Like
court looking area, but
yeah,
I don't remember being able to focus in on what they were eating.
but
It could have
there
been.
was food there. It was probably baby food, but still.
I was thinking more like the equivalent of like granola bars and
Yeah,
things
but
like that. It's they take the package off, the wrapper off before they bring it to your table. You get three different like looking granola bar, a Slim Jim, and pudding.
hey. You haven't eaten pudding until you've eaten it with a Slim Jim.
Okay, I do remember for a time there were Slim Jim straws, so you could drink your beer and eat your Slim Jim at the same time, something like that. Or
No,
is it
no,
like
no.
Slim Jim with a spoon at the end of it?
No, just open your little pack of pudding
Because he's got one right
and,
there.
and take. Well, I don't got a pack of pudding, but take
Okay.
your. I got a pepperoni stick, but take your Slim Jim or your pepperoni stick and just. Well, you saw me eat peanut butter with a chocolate bar.
Yeah. Oh, I was just thinking, they could make a Slim Jim or a pepperoni stick in any shape. Why not just make it a spork at one end? That way, when you're done, you know what I mean? You just eat the spoon, right? Wouldn't that be, someone's going to steal that idea now. Damn. It's,
Oh, that would be perfect with chili, man.
I know, right? Or
You
even
need
like,
like that bag full of spoons for every meal, though.
or like mac and cheese or ravioli out of a can or something like that. But the spork is made out of, meat or something similar to pepperoni sticks or whatever.
A lot better than cardboard.
Yeah, like I saw a video today on this guy. He's ranting about paper straws that are coming with plastic cups. Why don't you make the cups out of paper and the straws out of plastic? Because they're not looking for solutions. Just like when you pretend to recycle plastic, only 5% of it is reused.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Well, that's why I got the pump, right? Because I'd rather have like a glass bottle. Like I got a 20-liter carboy in the closet I'm gonna pull out and put here, which is a lot better than having those fucking bottles.
well, we
Because
reuse these bottles like a lot. You
mhm,
know, one case of bottles lasts us, several months before we decide to toss them, or
mhm,
recycle them or whatever. Um, but the thing is, you can't freeze glass bottles because, like this water right now, I just took it out of the freezer,
mhm,
and I take it out of the freezer when the whole bottle is like half frozen.
mhm.
So I want the water as cold as freaking possible, and ta-da, that's as cold as it. The only
If I
way
wanted a cold beverage, I'd get an ice maker.
I'm looking into that.
Because you could set that up under your desk off to one side.
Oh, no.
Well,
Food and beverages are not allowed upstairs, uh, except in this format. Something that can't spill or leak. I learned a long time ago that you keep your food consumption downstairs. You do not give them a reason. The bugs and things like and all the other
mm.
things that can happen and go wrong in a house. You keep it downstairs. You keep it in the dining area, and you're better off. Take care, RPG Exile.
Yeah,
Nice
party
having you.
on.
As a matter of fact, we're going to end the show in about 16 minutes, just because sitting
Well,
in one place has become an issue with me. If I sit too long, like the other night, I guess we did a like 4 or 5 hour stream, and it just jacked up my back. So I'm going to try to keep some of my streams down. I will be doing more as soon as StreamYards will actually take my freaking credit card or my bank card because they don't want to take it. But I think it's more to do because I'm putting in all the info right, but it's more with they're trying to sell me the year subscription all at once. And I'm like, no, I'll just do the monthly. I'll pay. It's a little bit more, but what if I go on vacation? Or if I decide, I don't want to stream as much, or if I just, say screw it and want to cancel and go to restream. Although I like the benefits of the plan, $19 a month is easier than $200 right now. You know what I mean?
What are the
$200?
What are the benefit differences that you like?
Besides the no logo, the unlimited hours, 10 guests, I can stream to 3 different channels or 3 different sources, like Rumble and etc. Which it might have been StreamYards who said, okay, we're not going to send it to Rumble anymore, or if I wanted to send it to X or something like that, they make it easier. Stuff like that, because I need to get all these old videos onto Rumble just in case YouTube decides to do something weird. Not like we ever really say anything that they shouldn't approve of, but you never know these days.
Well, like I said, that they really cracked down
Take care, Grandma.
the freebie party on Grandma. The free wielding nature of the platform after 2016, like it really started then COVID and
yeah, that's about when my shows stopped going directly over to Rumble. And I know it's going to be a lot of work, but the I'm not worried about the live shows, but the other ones, especially if Jackie's in it, I want them somewhere else besides my hard drives, just taking up space. So I
yeah.
want diversify and get more out there, and be on other platforms and do other things. And if I wanted to talk about something like the one time we did talk about something that YouTube didn't like, thankfully it went over to Rumble and that video is over there. Especially considering what they didn't want me talking about, everybody's talking about now. So it wasn't even me; it was a guest we had on who said something. I think you were there though.
Yeah, I was.
And it was just like
he was being too on the head with the example.
And lo and behold, now lots of big people, bigger than us, way bigger than us, are talking about all the things. So whatever. It all comes out eventually. When it comes to stuff like that, it's dumb, and it just makes you look bad when the truth comes out.
Yeah. And we all told them, but assholes will be assing or something.
Yep.
Okay.
So are you up for the book club?
Yeah, but I'll probably do the audiobook, man. You gotta.
Yeah, if you can't do it, I'd rather you do it at least somehow. Just if you can, give it your all, so to speak. It's only going to be, once every 2 weeks. And I'm not going to pick anything like War and Peace. Where
It's a good book, War and Peace.
I mean size wise. I'm going to try.
No. We live in the contemporary day of science fiction and fantasy. That's a small book.
Well, I'm actually
that joke of it being a big book stopped being relevant in the 90s.
Oh, I know. When I tried to get through a couple of Butcher's, what the frick are those books that Connell loves?
Oh, the Dresden Files.
Yeah.
Great
I was
books.
like, I didn't like them, dude. I didn't like the character. It was some things were really half-assed, and some things were a long way to go to get to the end. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Me personally, I'm going to be focusing on like really, really. To be honest, I want to start by trying to go through the appendix from the Dungeon Master's Guide.
Okay, like the Conans and
Right. Even if it's just one of, the series, because maybe it'll, someone will go, okay, I read the first one, but I'm going to be reading the next ones, because I'd never read them before or whatever,
mhm.
because there are some good books in there. And I was looking at the list and I was going through, and I've personally, I've read about probably over half of all the books that are in the appendix, but there were a bunch I'm like, I don't think I'm going to like this from what I read about the book per se.
Yeah, yeah.
For example, oh God, I can't even think of any, but there were a few books on the list that I'm like, when I went to go look up the book and what I read about, like the back cover or whatever, like this doesn't sound like my cup of tea, but if it's somebody else's pick, you know, um, and I'm more of a book guy to begin with. I read more books than I watch TV or movies or anything like
Mhm.
that. That's why it's real hard. Plus Sundays are like just the worst day for me to try to do Connell's show, to review movies, because it's just my Sundays are one of the few days that I have some time off at like that time. You know,
Mhm.
I'm going to try to be there for Planet of the Apes, but I don't know when that is, and I haven't been on his show in like 6 months, I think. For him.
Yeah, and we're not we with the when I came on, I suggested that we not hold off for people that weren't there and just do the circle. So Planet of the Apes is whenever you show up. Like
Mhm.
it's like when you start showing up regularly again,
Yeah,
you get into the
I
cycle.
do want to hang out with him, and I
Yeah,
feel bad, but it's like, dude, between church and then my game would be like
yeah.
1 hour after that. That's a lot of sitting.
No,
Uh,
we shortened it down. It's not a 4 hour show anymore.
well, his show
Uh,
used to be like 2 hours.
yeah, it's an hour and a half, 2 hours. But there have been times where it's been 4 hours before
Yeah,
I showed up. I was like,
yeah, no, I can't do that. I can't do
no,
that.
it's like when you were
Uh,
still on it, it was that long.
no, it was usually more like 2.5, because like 4 o'clock, which is normally the time the show's supposed to be over after 2 hours, is like my
Yeah,
dinner time. And
yeah,
Sunday night dinner is one of the only nights I get to eat with the family, and everybody like doesn't like wolf dinner down and try to scurry off to go do their own thing. And
yeah.
Alex is only going to be here for another 2 months, so you know.
Mhm, mhm.
But
Okay.
I'm going to start that in May, just so everybody knows who watches this later. If you want to be in it, because it's going to be everybody who's who's in it. It's going to be on the show on a Thursday night probably, and we're just
Yeah.
we'll
We'll dedicate a couple hours to that, and
yep.
then do
We
whatever.
can still paint and do other stuff, but we're going to talk about the book and give
Hmm.
everybody a chance to pick another book, preferably from the appendix. Once we're done with the appendix, then we'll go on to other stuff, or maybe we'll alternate or whatever. If somebody's like,
Hmm.
"Hey, this is a great new book," me personally, I'm going to be picking. I'm going to be trying to look for really old books.
Yeah.
Like not older than John Carter. I'm not going to be doing any H.G. Wells or anything like that. But uh,
Well, it'll definitely give you an opportunity once we're outside of the appendix to read the books I suggested.
sure,
The
and
the
that's
it is a series, but we could like do the first one, then a couple
yeah,
other
yeah. That
books, and then the second
unless
one.
somebody, because like someone's gonna say, well, I don't want to read all, or
No,
any
no,
Tolkien. It's like, okay, well,
yeah,
we've all done that. I'm sure we've all
yeah,
read that. We're not going to read it again, even though I've read the four Tolkien mainstays like 10 times each. I don't need to read them again. Someday I'm going to want to. When I get Alzheimer's, I'm going to want to read it again. But until then, I'm good.
yeah.
Uh,
I even read the Silmarillion, and I actually read that book.
I have tried, but
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
it's hard. The names are just too hard. You know,
yeah.
it's like I was calling this guy A and this guy B. You know, because it's got like half the alphabet in the name. I mean, where do it's just it's too much. I get it. It makes sense, especially with everything considered, but it's just
It is definitely like a world building document and not something that should be published, right? But the publisher wanted it, so they got it.
lots of people love it, and I've watched a lot of videos on it, and it does sound like it's got some interesting stuff in it. But I'm not a big fan of the world histories. I read the World
Yeah.
Book of Cause, which is 900 pages of Arduin with no numbers. No. It's just all history and geography and culture, and it was interesting, but it was also very boring because there's no story. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's just facts that, like, I'm not gonna.
Well,
I'm not
that's the kind of thing you give to your writing group for novels, right? Like we were talking earlier about
Yeah.
how
Yeah.
they should have like their pulp novel section. That's
Yeah,
the
just
kind of like
pick one country and just absorb all
or
that, or one
yeah,
nation, or one city, or one area, and just work with that. You know what I mean?
yeah,
And
or
give me something based on this town or this area, and give me a
yeah,
story, and don't worry about the rest of the book.
yeah. Where yeah, like that's a good like continuity Bible, right?
Mhm.
That you'd give to a group like that. Because you like do like BattleTech or Dungeons and Dragons did, and have like 5 or 6 authors that are in concert with each other,
Thieves
right?
World did that.
Yeah.
You ever read that?
I don't know Thieves World.
It was literally it was kind of like Wild Cards. Did you read that?
No,
R.
it's
R. Martin, whatever.
yeah,
It's
yeah, 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 okay.
authors writing tales about this city,
Mhm.
and they used each other's characters and stuff like that. But it was this group of
Yeah. Well,
Aspirin and some other famous writers. They wrote stories about this area, but the characters who lived in this area called Thieves World, which is really just a
mhm,
town in another in D&D world, and they all would take turns writing stories, sometimes using each other's characters, and it
yeah.
was good fun, and
Where
that
where
be
where
more authors to do. Right.
BattleTech usually, if you're using someone else's character, they get editing notes over that the things you're
Right.
doing, and they're secondary characters in your story, not primary ones.
Right. Exactly the way it
Um,
was.
yeah, okay, that
And
makes sense.
it,
Well,
the first, I think you can get the first anthology called Sanctuary, uh, which was actually the name of the city, I think.
mhm.
Not Thieves World, but it was just called Thieves World, like Dark
the
Sun.
the the old overall story, right?
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Because everybody in there is a bastard.
Mm.
They're all a thief. They're like everybody's a multi-class thief something. You know, because thief is like one of those character classes that literally anybody could be without taking the package or the skills or whatever. If you steal shit, you're a thief. All you have to do is
Mhm.
do it once, and you're a thief forever. You're a thief. It's when you keep doing it, then you get better at it, and you mess up your soul, but you get better at the skill or skill set or whatever. But yeah, you don't have to, you know, necessarily go to college to be a thief. It's not like being a politician.
Oh, that's a good one.
Thanks.
Oh,
But speaking of moments, this has been ours for tonight. I'm going to cut it
yeah,
off here. I would like you to hang out for a minute because there's something else I want to talk to you about.
yeah.
Behind the scenes, the after party is just going to be him and I, more bullshitting. But thanks to everybody who showed up tonight. Everybody's going to come back later and watch us ramble for 3 hours. I appreciate it, guys. It blows me away every day when I look and I see the numbers going up. I'm like, people are still watching that. It's over. I don't get that, but I really, it it helps keep me going. So everybody out there, have a great weekend. Get some gaming in. don't be afraid to do something, crazy and brand new in your gaming, circles and hobbies and stuff like that. Otherwise, you will burn out. You will eventually get tired of it and start looking elsewhere for the to scratch the same itches when you've got everything you need right there in your stack of books with your dice and your minis and all that. Just go out of your comfort zone and see what happens. Worst thing that's going to happen is, the game gets called on account of boredom or no shows and things like that. You can always start another game after that. Lord knows, very few of us get to run the same campaign for decades. So take it with a grain of salt, or come back at us and let us know what you've decided to do. Next week, next Saturday, is a free for all show. So who knows what we'll talk about. And then I got a big topic for the month of May, and it'll all, like, believe it or not, this one all sort of had a purpose, at least for me. I got a whole bunch of ideas and answers to questions that have been, rattling around up here. So I will see you guys Monday. And until then, everybody, have a great weekend. Want to take us out, Justin?
Oh, yeah, party on, everyone. I should plug my Discord, but I'll do that next week.
Okay. Bye, everybody.
Bye.